So let's turn that on, and let's turn that on, and let's turn that on. And I think we are live. So hello, everybody. And let's turn that on, and let's turn that on. Except my audio is repeating back to me.
Exactly, because you haven't got headphones on, because that usually is.
No, I've got headphones on. I've probably got 2 videos going in the background. No, I've got headphones on. I've probably got.
I gotta stop watching the YouTube one though, because it's obviously time delayed from what everyone else is, and it just throws my entire concept of reality into question.
Right, there you go. I think we fixed it, and we are live, and there is some chat on the screen, which I didn't realise. I've left the chat window on. Right, we're here. Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, hastily set up. I'm joined by 3 other reprobates today from the gaming hobby. We have Mr. Luke Hector in the top left from the Broken Meeple.
Hello.
Luke's recently been on a one-day holiday to Liverpool in the UK. How was Liverpool, Luke? Was it nice?
Well, what I saw of it was nice, but it was worth it. 9 hours of driving the last day. That's like,
Yeah, but you need a passport if you're going to go away. That's the thing.
Well, I need a passport so you can come with me. So
that's very true. Yeah, my backup plans of how I was going to get there without Luke, I had 3 or 4 backup plans. Yeah. Anyway, in the top right, Mr. Mark Dainty from Not Board Gaming.
Hello, everybody. We tried. Apologies to everybody going to Essen. We tried hiding Luke's passport, but he found a way around it. So he is going to be going to Germany.
Yes. We tried. And down in the bottom right, Mr. Mike Dennis from Ready Steady Play.
Hi.
Who I was watching at 9 o'clock this morning do ISS Vanguard while I was sorting out the GridCon tickets. So thank you for keeping me company this morning, Mike.
Oh, my pleasure, Paul.
And I've put some comments in the video of the rules mistakes that you made. Just so you know.
Actually, Paul, I was right about that.
So, was you? Okay, I need to look at that later then.
Just this is going to be super in depth, so nobody cut this out later.
I'll cut this out of the live show.
Trigger the what it is you trigger the dice results in the order they appear on the special action on the card.
That's true.
Because the oopsie icon is shown first on that action, those oopsie results would be used and then spent before anything else happens.
But the accident results, if that icon is not there, don't actually have any negative effects.
So you have a chance to use your sector cards or something like that to resolve the situation before resolving the icons. Yes.
There you go. So that's the ISS Vanguard rules question video sorted. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next year.
The official FAQ.
Right.
Official FAQ.
Right, apparently we got some volume with us. I mean, I've turned my microphone up a bit, so hopefully I'll come off a bit louder.
Is everybody quieter than me? I can just boost everybody. That's fine.
Yeah,
I can just boost everybody. I'll boost everybody.
I also seem to have a little window and 2 checkboxes next to my camera. I think that might be Paul's screen.
You do.
So you need to drag a window somewhere.
There you go.
It's just voting, Luke, for who wants you on the stream or not, basically. So once them 2 boxes are filled, that's it. You're gone.
Yeah, I also think I'm going to just make mine a little bit different size. There we go.
You kidding? I bring the sophisticated crowd to the chat. I mean, that's how it works.
We're all sorted. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be talking through a few of the games that are coming out at Essen Spiel 2022. Not all of them. There's a lot of games coming out this year, and I have, if this is working, yes, I have another window. I'm going to hide the chat box actually, because we're not going to see that. So I've got another window here with Board Game Geek open, and we're going to be going through some of the games. Now, a few things. We're only going to talk about games that are available to purchase at Essen Spiel. So there's a lot of games on the Essen Spiel preview list, which I will open up here, which are not available. They're only available for demo. You can't buy them. So we're not going to cover them today. There's a few on there that I certainly would have mentioned myself. But yeah, we're not going to cover them today. Also, we're kind of time limited today. We're probably going to run for about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. So instead of going through our top 10s from 10 and upwards, if we did that, we might run out of time. This thing, it's going to be very freeform today. So we're actually going to start with probably our most anticipated games and then work down, just so we get all of the important ones out of the way. And as I say, it's going to be fairly freeform. One of us is going to talk about a game. We're all going to then give our opinions on it if we know anything about it. And if you want to join in on the chat and let us know if it's on your thing, then let us know. That all right with everybody?
Sounds good.
That should work.
What was the other things that I was going to say before we started? I think that was about it.
Well, I think all the usual caveats, Paul. Like I noticed on your channel in particular, you've got a lot of Essen releases already covered. So
that was it.
As reviewers with privilege, we have played some of these games already. They're unlikely to come up
Yes.
We might have pledged to a lot of them on Kickstarter. Those are probably unlikely to come up. So these are sort of curated lists of games that are available to buy at Essen that we already haven't played or pledged to.
Now you see, I'm actually going to talk about games that I have already played, because as far as Mike's absolutely right. Some of us have received some of the Essen releases already. Some of us have played those Essen releases, and some of us have done reviews of those Essen releases. As far as I'm concerned, they are still Essen releases. The fact that me and Luke have both had an advanced copy of Tillitum from Board and Dice doesn't mean it isn't an Essen release. I think that still classes as an Essen release. So I'm more than happy to talk about any of those.
Is Tillitum what we're going with? I was committed to Tillitum.
Tillitum, the fifth Tillitum.
Tell me. I mean, this is why publishers need to name their games things we can pronounce.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually also had a review copy of that, Paul. And you're right. It is actually, in a way, more valuable to talk about the things we've played and already had a chance to review. Because we know more about them.
We know more about them.
It was on my honorable mentions list, and there will be a video coming out.
But then, like I say,
on the channel as well.
Some of us have got reviews out for them. I mean, I'm not going to talk about any game I've already reviewed, so that's a
you
given.
should. I mean, if we start talking about Tillitum and you've already covered it, then you know more about it than the rest of us. So you should. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention is all of us are reviewers. All of us get given games by publishers in order for us to show them on our channel, in order for, obviously, marketing purposes. The ones I've kind of made my own list, and that list is the same as if I wasn't a content creator. So I've got a list of, if I'm not a content creator and I was going to Essen, these are the 10 to 15 games that I would actually go and probably buy while I was there. It's actually exactly the same list as, here's the 10 or 15 games that I want to bring back to cover on the channel. And I just wanted to make that clear from my point of view. I'm not going to Essen to pick up games because they are the latest hotness that I'm not personally looking forward to. If there are any of those on the list like that, then they're not on my list. So yeah, I don't know if you were probably all in the same boat as well. You're not going to go there and pick up games that you're not interested in yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there would be some reviewers who go, oh, this is a new big hot game that's coming out. I'll go and get a copy of it and cover it on the channel, even though I don't have any interest in it. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but if the new hotness is 18 Portsmouth, I'm not going to play it. There'll be some things I will just not go near.
Oh right, so no 18 Portsmouth then, right?
No,
Mark and Mike, we best cross that off the list.
Cross that one off the list there. That
cross
was
that one off the list
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, number 2 was another train game, so I'll cross that off the list. Number 3 was
Rotherham.
No trains allowed.
Number 3 is Great Western Trail Devon, so we can get rid of that. Right then. Let's crack on. Who wants to go first? Mark, I've picked you
guys.
At random.
So can I come in with something that doesn't quite fit into the mold of not available at Essen, but also kind of available at Essen? A game that I've already got, but I've already covered on the channel. But I know lots of people want it, and it's one of 2 games. It's the Hoplomachus games that Chip Theory have got now. Yeah. There are 2 pallets, I believe, for sale of the Hoplomachus games remastered and of Victorum.
Yes.
I've got them, I've got them both. Now, I can only imagine this is going to be like one of the major queues first thing in the morning, or maybe anybody going to the press preview on Wednesday evening is going to get their copy then, basically. But yeah, Hoplomachus, both remastered and Victorum, very, very, very limited copies for sale at Essen. I've been fortunate enough to be sent a copy of both of them, and remastered, I've played more than Victorum so far. Victorum being the pure solo one, remastered being 1 to 4 players. Both of them are kind of an updating or reimagining, if you like, of the original Hoplomachus games, which was one of Chip Theory's first games. And I think it's fantastic. It's the production quality, as you can imagine, is great. But I don't think there's any better kind of positional play, tactical, and some elements of strategy in there as well, because you have to think about the long game as well. Game that's on the market. It works fantastic from a solo perspective. I played remastered with my wife as a skirmish as well. My wife doesn't play board games. She was into it by kind of round 2 and 3, and by the end of round 3, she really looking at the reference sheet. It all was kind of gelling together very nicely for her. So I've got a feeling both these games, very, very limited quantities at Essen. They were going to sell them at Essen, and they were meant to be shipped out to backers first. There was an issue with the copies going out to backers, I believe, in that some of the chips were the wrong way around.
Yeah.
So they asked backers, we got these 2 pallets taken to Essen. Can we sell them? I know you guys haven't got yours, and backers almost unanimously said yes, you can sell them at Essen. So
98% of backers, I think, said yes, go ahead and sell them. Something like that.
So if you're there, you need to get there very early in the morning, because I can only imagine that both these games, both Victorum from a solo perspective, which is a huge campaign game, a massively replayable campaign game, and then Remastered, which is the 1 to 4 player version, they're going to sell out very, very quick. So if I didn't have them already, I'd be beating down the door at Chip Theory Games to get both of these into my collection.
I'm trying to find your video on Board Game Geek for Victorum, but I don't think you've got one.
Not for the new. No, I did a preview last year. I haven't done the actual video yet. I've got one on for Remastered.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those people who don't know, as Mark says, backers should have got their copies. The whole plan was backers would get their copies of these games like now or last week or the week before, and then Essen would come and they would have copies for sale. But unfortunately, due to a production issue, backers like myself don't have their copy yet, and everybody else who's backed the game, apart from a few selected individuals such as Mark, don't have their copies yet. So it will be for sale. And Mark, forgetting obviously the fact that you've got a copy already, this would have been number 1 on your list anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. It would have been one that I would have directly made a beeline for. Yeah.
It's got Chip Theory in the tagline, so.
Yeah.
Plus, they also sent Mark a sword, which means obviously that has completely influenced Mark's decision as to.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't get no sword.
Paul got a sword as well. Don't let him just point it in my direction. No pun intended. But Paul also.
I've got a sword. It's it's downstairs. We use it for opening letters.
I'll be totally fine with pointing a sword in your direction, mate.
Sounds very rude.
There we go. Right, so that's Hoplomachus, both Remastered, which is an updated version of the original Hoplomachus, and Hoplomachus Victorum, which is a purely solo game built on the Hoplomachus system, but is a separate game. Now, the two share a lot of similarities, don't they, Mark?
Yes, they do, yeah. It's the same combat system, more or less the same. It is more or less the same gameplay. There's ways to integrate the kind of the factions from both games into each other games. So you got almost kind of not endless variability, but lots of exponential variability there as well. Victorum obviously spreads it out into more of an RPG style, if you like. So you're upgrading your character as you go along. You're getting stronger. You're fighting stronger bad guys, or the opposing forces are getting stronger. And then there's an ultimate scion, which is this big bad guy at the end of the 4th act of Victorum. Yeah. Whereas in Remastered, it's more kind of direct combat, if you like.
It's a 2-player game, isn't it?
Remastered 1 to 4.
It's up to 4, but it plays solo as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's what confused me originally, because people were saying, Hoplomachus Victorum is a solo version of Hoplomachus, but I thought, well, Hoplomachus is also a solo game. But as you say, the solo game of Hoplomachus Remastered is, let's just have a fight in an arena and we'll just have a bit of a fight. Victorum takes it to this big campaign sort of story system kind of thing. Well, not really story, but definitely a campaign system. So cool. Right, so that's Hoplomachus Victorum. Mike, do you want to go next? What's what's top of your list?
Sure. Just moving off before we move off the topic of Hoplomachus. I've been getting some reputation on my channel apparently as someone who's very critical of chip theory games, because I wasn't a big fan of Cloud Spire, and I wasn't a big fan of Burn Cycle either. And I'd like to point out for a start that we were a early adopter of Too Many Bones. We backed the very first campaign, and we had it, and we put out very positive reviews about that back in the day. And I've always been a big fan of Too Many Bones. So I think that's a rather unfair reputation. And I personally was very excited for the reissue of Hoplomachus, and I am a full all-in backer of it, because I've heard very positive things about the system, and I really like the look of the game. I'm really hoping that Chip Theory have used the time they've had since the first edition to redevelop it into something really, that meets the sort of the standard of their other productions, but they've, really refined the rule set and just made it a really excellent product. I mean, I know that it was already very well regarded, although I haven't had a chance to play it myself. I'm very excited for it. So, just because I've been critical of their other two products doesn't mean I can't be excited about Hoplomachus.
You can be critical. Yeah. You don't have to apologize for having an opinion. It's like, too many bones was overrated. There you go. Done.
Luke, you're overrated.
Well, yeah, Luke, it is overrated. That's for sure. I don't quite know how.
Yeah, I like Burn Cycle. I even bought that on the second hand recently.
Right then.
Well, then, Luke, I think you're fired.
So, Mike, was you one of the few people that were complaining that other people are going to be able to get to buy the game before you get your copy
absolutely not, Paul. And I think actually, as far as I can understand people who are upset that they're not going to get their copy before other people, or rather, even I think even in a timely manner compared to the retail release. I don't really mind so much. Certainly, as a board game enthusiast, a person in the hobby. I mean, as a media creator, it actually has a much bigger impact on me, and that's a real bummer.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of going to miss that window of when people are checking out the content and looking at it. And now I don't know if it'll be worth it for me to even go back and look at it in terms of generating hype. But I don't chase the hype, Paul. That's always been something we've done on Ready Steady Plays. We play what we want when we want, and we rely on the Patreon backers to help us do that. So if they want to see it when it comes to us eventually, then I'll play it and I'll talk about it, and we'll see where it fits into.
If it's any consolation, catalog. I won't be doing any coverage of myself until probably February next year. So
well, if you're waiting for your actual pledge, Paul, we're probably not going to get it till late December, I think, at this stage.
I think January, February, maybe.
Yeah,
I think. Jonathan's in the chat, just wants us to point out from the Hexy Beast. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining in. This is not Chip Theory Games' fault. The problem with the production was with it's E-Star. It's the company in China that's doing the production. Yeah. They've admitted it. It's their fault. It's their problem. They're fixing it. It's going to take them a long time to fix it at their own expense. So this is not Chip Theory Games' fault. Anyway,
these kinds of logistical supply chains have a lot of moving parts, and we just kind of see the end result of it. And I think it's like, who do you hold accountable for that, right? Like, ultimately, I guess it is Chip Theory Games because they are the ones supplying the product at the end of the day, and it is their manufacturer. On the other hand, I think given everything that's going on and how difficult these things have become and how everything's sort of changed over the last wee while, we have to be, I think, understanding of that. And ultimately, you're going to get your game, and I think that's the most important thing. Like, it's not like they're not delivering.
No.
A much bigger issue.
Like some other Kickstarters that we won't talk about.
No.
So anyway, Mike, go on. What's on your list?
Right. Well, I'm trying to decide where I'm going to jump in here first, and I think I'm going to jump in with one that I'm super hype about, which I think also will be hype with your audience, which you guys may not have heard of, or maybe you're very excited about it. I don't know. But this is a game called Pilgrim from Spielworks. Anyone heard of this one?
I heard of it, but not a lot of people have talked about it. It's kind of everyone comments about the cover and not much else.
Well,
the cover is good. I like the cover. I mean,
the cover art is very nice. I think that it is completely misleading.
Oh, right, okay.
I heard it's a bit of an abstract, isn't it?
A bit of an abstract. Well, what it is it's, Spielworks is a publisher that I keep an eye on anyway, because they tend to revisit old games and sort of reprint older Euro games and classic games from known designers, and I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. This is a new design from a designer called Nick Case. I haven't played any of his other designs. He only seems to have one or two to his name. But it also says somewhere in the spiel that it borrows from 18XX style mechanisms. I don't have a lot of experience with 18XX. I know a bit about, I've played a few of them. I know a bit about stocks and route building and that kind of stuff. I know Railways of the World better, but what this looks like at its sort of core, which has me really interested, is it's a route building game, which I'm normally sort of, I'm okay with it as a mechanism, but it needs to be about the rest of it. Like what I like about, you know, say Railways of the World, is that you're building these routes, but then, you know, you're blocking people and stuff like that. And it's sort of who gets to do the pickup and delivery in the most efficient way possible eventually. And what this is doing with route building is it's got these pilgrims that move around the routes and land on the action spaces. And so effectively what you're doing is building a Mancala board. And you're going to be able to move your meeples around the action spaces in more or less efficient ways in order to trigger the actions based on the routes you've built. And that to me is really interesting. I haven't seen anything like that before.
Okay.
And apparently it's really mean, which also I lots of player interaction and really mean, which I'm all about.
Okay, that's off my list then.
Sounds thematic. I have no idea. I see what you mean. Yeah, that box cover is misleading because that was not the description I expected to hear for Pilgrim.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of player interaction. It doesn't look mean, but ultimately the action spaces are going to be triggered in favor of the person with the most pilgrims on them. So it's kind of like when you score the Mancala Bowl and the person gets all the stones in it or whatever. You know, you're going to score the action and the person with all their pilgrims on it is going to get to take that action. I don't know if everyone gets to do like a lesser follow action or what. I didn't get that far into the rule book, but you know, it's sort of like, I don't know, like area control or area majority action sort of Mancala. I don't know. It looks really interesting. Okay. I'm super keen to try it.
And you're going to go and
it says 1 to 4 players, so I'm wondering how I can be mean and have lots of player interaction with myself when I'm playing it solo. But we'll see.
Yeah, the will be mean.
Mark, when you're playing by yourself, that's 100% player interaction.
Do you buy shares in other pilgrims?
I don't know. I don't think there's a shares and stock mechanism. I think when it comes to and again, I'm not a good person to be making comparisons to the 18xx mechanisms. It's just what it said on BGG, but I think it's mostly about the route building and sort of, you know, blocking other people off for making their paths inefficient.
It is a good point though, because if we are comparing it to some 18xx games or route building that can be mean, those games tend to shine at 3-4 players. Mm-hmm. Solo versions of those games, I don't quite know how solo versions of those games work, because the whole, you know, the main part of the game is the route building, blocking other players, building somewhere before they do. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, Mark, you'd be looking at this potentially from a solo perspective and just seeing how is the solo game of this going to work.
And to work, and you know, it's I don't know anything about it. So Mike mentioned it today. Is the first time I've seen this game, so I need to. It looks interesting. The board looks very, very interesting as well. It's certainly got that 18xx feel with lots of hexes on there. But yeah, no idea how this will work solo. Certainly, if it's got a high degree of player interaction. So yeah, maybe you want to go and check out and speak to them about this.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. And they also advertise that the variable setup has like an enormous number of sort of combinations, and I think there's an element of players sort of trying to set things up at the start as well. So it looks like a lot of replayability in terms of variable setup, which is nice.
Right, Luke, what have you got on the top of your list then?
I didn't get to chat about it on my podcast, which was really annoying because it wasn't high up in the thumbs list, but researching it more is definitely high up. Ludonauts games have come out with a lot of good stuff lately, but with the stuff I'm looking for at Essen, I'm more on the lines of, has it got a new theme or mechanism that's different? Because there's so many of, seen it. Pre-cognition is a new game. I think it's literally releasing at the moment, but it will be at Essen. It's from Ludonauts, and besides just loving the artwork on the cover and in the game, I think that cover looks really great.
That's nice. Yeah.
It's a post-apocalyptic setting, like trying to keep the humans healthy and that. But what's got me interested in this is the card system. They call it a dual, I think they call it dual action or dual card system. I'm trying to find it on the BGG thing, but dual select. The idea is that you're playing cards in order to do like the various actions, but you play a couple of cards, one for yourself, but then one for the player on your right, which is going to come back to you in the next round. So you've got to kind of think forward as to, right, I need this now, but I'm going to play this, which is going to affect him. But then I also want it to come back to me in a second because I'm going to need it for this. It's just that little bit of a tweak on, it's kind of similar to what like Ginkgopolis and a few of those others did, where you played the cards and you hope they came back round the circle to you eventually.
Right.
But then this one is, it's going to come to you next turn, but you got to give one to the person on your left that you're not going to see a while. This one you're going to see in a minute. This one you're going to play now, and a few little decisions like that are going to be it's as I say, it's something different that I've not seen. The good setting, the good artwork, and Ludonauts' recent history of some pretty decent releases, doesn't hurt either. But yeah, nobody's really mentioned it at all, which is a bit of a shame. But I've definitely got my eye on this one.
I've not heard of this one at all, but if we're both free at the same time, I'm more than happy to wander by the booth and we'll have a look at it. I'm just playing the trailer video now from BGG to see if it is actually a trailer or does it actually have... Oh, it has some stuff in it.
It's explaining the system because some people on BGG were like, "Can you explain it a bit more?" And they've got videos on their website. I mean, this is the prototype, but yeah, there's some videos to explain exactly how it works. And it's keeping to that name, Pre-cognition. So what is it you're going to need? Because you got to deal with events and the usual. Everything's trying to get in the way of keeping your humans alive and bits like that. So it's just something new and different, which is always going to be a highlight.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll add that one to my list to go and have a look at. So the first one I want to talk about is Revive. This is one which I haven't managed to get a copy of before Essen. A lot of people have covered this game already, and it's very high up on the list. But this is very high on my list for sure. Mainly for a couple of reasons. The first one is the publisher and the design studio. So it's Aporta Games. You can see the list of designers there, but they've done... So Aporta Games in the past have done The Magnificent. What was the one they did last year that was really good? I can't remember now. But they do good games.
Did they do the offshore drilling one or whatever it was?
Yeah, I've not played that one. Capital Lux 2 they did as well. So they do some really good games. But the other thing that's got this high on my list is that everybody that I know that has played this or seen it or had a chance to play it has said it's fantastic. And they're people whose opinions I generally respect. So yeah, so Revive is high on my list. 1 to 4 players, 90 to 120 minutes. Yes. I know very little about the actual mechanisms of the game, but it says it's revive civilization 5,000 years after everything was destroyed. Lead your tribe and explore the frozen earth. Harness its resources. Recruit surface survivors to your cause. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to bother looking at the mechanisms listed on BGG because these days every mechanism is listed against the game. Yeah. But yeah, as I say, let's just look at some of the images.
It's getting a lot of buzz, but I haven't learned much about it because that board looks scary as hell. Like looking at that,
gets
trying
me
to see what's going on. But then at first I thought you had to play it in a campaign. Apparently that's not the case. Like you can do it with unlocks, but apparently you can just get stuck in, which is good because I've had it up to here with Euros trying to insert campaigns.
I'll just jump in here real quick, and I'll give it back to you. But basically, the campaign is just a bunch of the game's more advanced mechanisms kept behind sort of a modular distribution. Campaign, I think, is a buzzword they've adopted to help sell the game, but actually, you could just tear it open.
I thought like I don't want another Charterstone. Teach me the game up front. I don't need 5 games to learn your tiny rules mechanisms. But I've sort of the way because Supporter they're hit and miss for me. I mean, ever since Automania is my favorite one they ever did, and then since then I'm just looking at their history. They've usually been okay, fine, but I've not got hyped about a specific one. So will this change things? Maybe. We'll see.
I think the Magnificent is kind of I suppose the one that most people would know. I know that. I mean, Johnny Williams has played it. I've never played it. It's one that I still keep meaning to pick up. Yeah, Luke thinks it's all right. Mike, you think it's very good, do you?
I played Magnificent a few times actually when I was talking about sort of tile laying games, and I think I sort of came into it expecting more of a tile laying puzzle where it's a bit less of less of the main thing. It's more kind of like a lot of mini little games tied together by this sort of Euro resource thing. And it was fine. Like it was fine. I've still got it actually, but it's not in the permanent collection.
I wanted more theme out of it, and it ended up being a very sort of typical Euro game, but it was fine.
Yeah, fine middleweight Euro game, but I wouldn't have kept it if I didn't have a channel.
Tom Heath, I'm just playing it at the moment. Tom Heath from Slicker Drips has done a solo playthrough of it, which is there if anybody wants to watch it. So it does have a solo mode as well, and that's probably, of all of the games from Essen, not counting the ones I've already got in advance, that's probably the number one game that I'm looking to pick up and possibly even play on the Wednesday night that we're there. So we will see.
Well, I'll play it with you on that. There we go.
Okay, that works. If you read the rules beforehand, we're sorted. I'll read them in the car on the way there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's better than you sleeping as you normally do. But
I will probably sleep. Right, back to you, Mark. Next one you want to talk about.
So this, I think, I know you've already got a copy, and I've got a feeling this is going to be the darling of the game, if you like, darling of Spiel, if you like. So every now and every year there's a game that everybody loves. Last year it was either going to be Golem or Messina 1337, whichever we seem to have at some point. It's Lacrimosa this year. So you've already got a copy, haven't you, Paul?
Got a copy, covered it on the channel. Playthrough is already on the channel.
Yeah, so I went up to do the pre-order, and the pre-order's already kind of sold out. They are saying they've got more to have on there. So this is this kind of Euro-style game where you're completing Mozart's final work. Yep. Looks almost, typical Euro, but it just looks, there's something about it that looks very, very interesting. It's 1 to 4 player. It's Devere Games. Obviously, Bitoku was a huge hit last year. But the guy who's designed this, Gerald Asensi, Luke, is the same person behind, let me tell you, 1998 ISS as well. So the game is not to mention on the channel as well, but this looks really, really interesting.
That's not supporting it, mate. Yeah, it looks. I mean, it looked fine from Paul's playthrough. I remember liking it from there. It's beige as all get out, but
it's Euro, and that's kind of most of Essen, though, isn't it? Basically, and I think that's one of the things about Essen is it tends to be very Euro focused more than anything else. He says here that, and Paul probably tell me if I'm wrong here, you're playing two different timelines, the present and the past. In the present, you commission the missing parts of the Requiem from other composers in order to complete it. When developing past events, the game takes place in 5 epochs, which you contribute to by buying new compositions from the composer to sell or exhibit. So it sounds like it's kind of a lot of interconnecting mechanisms here. The artwork looks beige, but looks kind of exciting at the same time. It's almost got as you can imagine in the time period, almost a Rococo style feel to it, though not quite as colourful as Rococo, obviously.
It's been compared to that.
Yeah. The theme's drawing me in a bit more because it is something different.
Yeah, it is. I mean, ultimately,
it's
a Euro game. There is some theme in there in some of the mechanisms, and there might be more theme in this game than there are in certain other games. But ultimately, for somebody like myself, I'm doing Euro stuff. I am choosing an action. I am moving to a particular space. I am spending resources to put a piece on the board, and I am trying to get the most points. The fact that thematically what we're doing is we are going around and we are getting composers together to finish. That theme is in there, and it works really well.
And it generates the banter because you can make a lot of music references and jokes while you're doing it, which is always a good thing. If it generates that kind of thing. And the card system reminded me a bit of Lisboa when you were playing it, and that's my highlight of that game is the card system of slot on top, slot on the bottoms. That's already got the attention. One thing that makes me think of why this is going to be your darling of Essen, though, is possibly what you said at the start because of Bitoku last year, except Bitoku was a big disappointment. So I'm hoping that this isn't
how
like
do you feel about that?
Yeah,
well, when Luke says it is a bit of disappointment, it was my number 1 game of last year. So
I too am also in the Bitoku camp here. I was a big fan of Bitoku, and I remain.
I like my point salads, but not for 3.5 hours.
Here's the thing. You're absolutely right. So I played Bitoku in 2 hours. But anyway, here's the thing. Bitoku was a very big popular game from last year. It was from Devere, and this is their big new game for this year.
Yeah.
We played it on Wednesday. I wasn't sure what to expect for the game, but it is a lot less complex than Bitoku, probably half as complex as Bitoku, and it will play in about an hour and a half. So as I say, I went into Wednesday thinking, this is going to be another big box game as complex as Bitoku. It's not. It's a lot lighter.
You got through it pretty quickly.
And the game flows. It has a nice pace. And I think all 4 of us that played it on Wednesday, and the video is on the channel playing in the background if you want to go and watch it, all 4 of us enjoyed it. And one of the reasons we enjoyed it is because within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we all knew what we were doing. The rules are not that complex. It all makes sense. The graphic design is clear. The rules were clear. And the game flows really nicely, and the actions are relatively simple and easy to explain, and that was great. That was a big selling point for us, that we were just able to start enjoying the game as soon as we can. So if you're looking for something as big, heavy, and as complex as Bitoku, it's not that. But we all enjoyed it. So.
Well, I don't. I think Bitoku still sits in my collection, taking up its place. I don't want another Bitoku really.
No, it isn't.
I mean,
I love the way it looks.
before we move on, just really quickly, two things. One, Bitoku. This is a PSA. Don't play it without the harder variant rule on page 9. Everyone I've spoken to who didn't like Bitoku played it without that rule.
It's fine without the rule.
No, it's not. It's not. It is a very mediocre point salad without the harder variant rule.
What does the variant do?
You cannot place dice into a forest space where there is a die of a higher number.
So it just makes it more restrictive and annoying then?
No. Timing hugely important.
That's the
it
normal
makes the
rule.
amulets really key.
Mike, that's the normal rule.
Yeah.
No, it's not in the rules, Paul. It's
No,
only
it
in
is.
the variant on page
No.
9.
To be fair, it could be in the normal rules. The rules just aren't very well written.
It's in the normal rules.
It's not.
That is the normal rules of the game.
That's how they taught it at Essen.
Well, they're wrong.
They're wrong. Yes.
So we'll just have a side tangent for rules about Bitoku. The normal rules of Bitoku are you cannot place a dice in a forest area if there is a dice there of a higher value.
Yeah, that's
the base rules. The advanced rules are you cannot place a dice in a forest area if there is a die of equal to or higher value.
Right. Well, just play normally.
That's the advanced rules. So, Mike,
Okay,
you were playing a game which would not work, and maybe that's why.
We're playing the harder version then.
No, you were playing some weird offshoot, strange version where you could place any dice anywhere.
If only the rule book was clear.
No, actually, to be honest, I'm just correcting myself. You can place the dice, but you don't get to do the action. You can put a 2 where there's already a 4, but you don't get to do the forest action. You still get to do the building action, but you don't get to do the forest action. And you would generally always want to do the forest action.
Well, I'm playing the rules that they taught us at Essen, which, by the way, were horribly wrong, and I already corrected a bunch of them.
Yeah. We all know about getting demos at Essen.
Yeah, you've got to take demos at Essen or any convention with a grain of salt. It's to get you a feel, not a rules lawyer perspective. Except when I'm teaching a game.
Bitoku was a tough one. But the other thing, just very quickly, is that if you are not into classical music, you can also check out Festival and Come Together, both of which are music-themed games at Essen this year.
There we go.
So now there's a solo mode for Lacrimosa, and people have asked me, have I played it yet, or have I looked at it? I haven't. Mark, have you looked at the rules for the solo mode for Lacrimosa?
Not read the rules yet. No.
Okay.
So I'll wait until I pick the game up. Yeah.
I'll get a copy at Essen and look at it then.
Yeah. Cool. Right, Mike. What's next on your list then?
All right. Well, I am interested to hear about Revive, actually. So that was a good good thing that we covered that, because that is a game that I sort of looked over and I didn't have much chance to explore, but it's getting a lot of positive feedback. Everyone's talking about it very positively. So I've got a few more on my list, but let's mention this one next because I want to make sure we cover it, which is Deal with the Devil, which I know you've done the official rules video for, Paul.
Came out yesterday.
But, and I actually have a very interesting question for you about this, because this is a sort of, it looks like to me, I mean, so this is from the designer of Alchemists.
Yep.
I was hoping you'd jump in with his name there, Paul.
Matoush Kotri.
Thank you. So I wouldn't have to pronounce it.
I'm not trying that.
But so I liked Alchemists a lot. It's an app-driven game. This is also a game with an app, although really where the app fits into this game is around distribution. So what's and actually, Paul, you also feel free to jump in and take over the overview. You did the official video.
No. I'll sit here making notes.
Pandering.
You jump in and correct me when I'm wrong. Then,
I will.
Probably will be wrong, but I'll just try to keep it very high level. But effectively, it's sort of a Euro game where you're going to do sort of concealed action selection in a turn. You've got resources that you're managing in order to take these actions, and you can build sets to claim objectives, all the while trying to get points. And every player has a hidden role, which is you're either a citizen, or you are a cultist who's sort of in league with the devil, or you're the devil themselves. And underpinning this sort of this Euro construction is this trading mechanism where you are trading treasure chests back and forth with trade offers concealed inside. What's unique about this mechanism is that the app distributes the chests amongst the players. So when you get a chest, you'll know who it's come from. You'll know if you've got the cultist chest or the devil's chest or, a regular person's chest, but you won't actually know which player has given it to you. So you don't know who the devil is. You just know that you've got the devil's chest. And then you can trade things in exchange for the resources and stuff to help you carry out these Euro mechanisms. And one of the big deals is these pieces of soul that you can trade to the devil for vast rewards. But my understanding is if the devil collects all the pieces of soul, then they're laughing to the bank.
They're going to get a lot of points. Yeah, that's
exactly
pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I've let you have this on your list because this was stupidly high on my list as well. That theme, I don't even need to know what mechanics it is. That theme alone sold me just from a description. This is definitely one I'm hunting down. The only thing that slightly concerns me is the design. Alchemist is a cool game, but man, does it burn your brain. It's got a lot of stuff going on and quite complicated. And then I thought Deal with the Devil was going to be a more simpler game generally, but then watching Paul's video, it's like, dang, there's a lot of setup and a lot of stuff in this. I hope it's not too complicated for people.
It's not a light game. My rules video comes in at 37 minutes.
It was a lot.
It's a lot. I think it's probably as complex as Alchemist, maybe a little bit less complex. Because one of the things with Alchemist is you have to do that deduction and you have to understand how that works. The part of this game, which is the unique, clever part, is the hidden trading. Yeah. And it's actually not that complicated. So you're a mortal. The first game I played of it, before doing this video, I was a mortal. And I went, okay, well, I've got some spare wood. I don't need this wood. I'll try and sell it to get a bit of money. So I put some things in the chest and I said, look, I'm trying to sell this piece of wood for 2 coins. Off I go. There you go. And then the chest that I got was from the devil. And it was like, oh, would you like a piece of marble, a piece of glass and a couple of coins? And all I want in return is your soul. And I was like, oh, if I have that glass and that marble, I could build this building that I need to build. So I went, sure, what's 1 piece of soul? So I put the soul back in and I traded it away. And that's it. So all you need to remember when you're doing the secret trading is, well, there's not much to remember. It's just you get an offer and whether you accept it or you don't accept it. And then, of course, the Inquisition came round a few months later and knocked on my door and said, hello, Mr. Grogan, would you like to confess your sins or would you like to show us 3 pieces of soul? And I went, yeah, about that. Yeah.
The one thing I forgot is that the app does the secret distribution at the start, but then when you're doing the trading, how do you not know that the chest is coming from the devil that you're picking up?
They've all got a QR code on the bottom. And if you see in the video, I don't actually show the bottom of the chest, but what you do is you put your phone on the table with the camera pointing up, and you hold the chest above it, and you shuffle them up first. So I've got all 4 chests. I shuffle them up. I then pick up the first chest. You don't know which one it is. I hold it over, and it says give that to the blue player. So I give that to the blue player, and then I give that to the green player. So the app knows exactly who's got which chest, who comes from, who. Yeah. But the players don't know, and that's really clever. This is a game, and I'll tell you about this, even though I was professionally involved and I did the video for it, I can be absolutely honest about it. This is a game for exactly 4 players. Straight away,
awesome.
You have cut off a massive portion of the audience. So first of all, your solo players, your people who only play 2 players, they're all gone, right? They are not going to get this game at all because they will never get it played. So that's the first thing. Second thing, it uses an app. There are still some people who refuse to use apps. Okay, so you've got rid of those as well. But what you're left with, the good points of this is a game which you won't have anything like it, I believe, in your collection. The way that the trading and the thematic association of it is extremely well done. Matushi is a very clever guy. And Alchemists is unique, and Deal with the Devil is unique as well. Now, I first played a prototype of this about 6 or 7 years ago. And CGE and Matush has been working on the game and developing the game for that long. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I'd given up on the game. I went, look, it's a great game. He's got some really good ideas here. But the hidden trading, how this is going to work, the fact that it's only for 4 players, I'm not sure they're actually going to publish this. And I'm really glad that they have, because I think there is an audience for this game, and the people who like this kind of game. I mean, when we played it round here, learning the game, there was me, Rob, Andy, and Michela. Me and Rob had no clue what we were doing. completely fudged the whole game, made total mistakes all the way through, did the trading wrong, did the guessing wrong, because you can try and right. And we ended up both on negative points, and we were like, we must be playing this game wrong, right? The game's almost over, and I'm on -1 point, and then in final scoring, I lost even more points. So there must be something wrong. Whereas Andy and Michaela loved it. They absolutely got on board, and they were being clever, and they were working stuff out, and they were going, oh, well, he's done that, and he's done that, and he's done that. And they ended up on like 20-something points each. And me and Rob were sitting here thinking, well, okay, so those two have got the game. They understand it. They know how to play it. And me and Rob were just like, yeah, maybe this isn't the game for us. But as I say, those two absolutely loved it.
It'll be good. Unique and innovative is what I want. And this is that 4 players is easy mode. 2 players is the count I can't get played.
Okay.
4, I literally just like put it on the table and I'll have 3 players turn up. That's the advantage of the gaming clubs.
I think it's great that the game is unapologetically 4 players, and from a solo perspective,
I'm kind of
why make concessions?
I was about to say,
we don't.
I'm at a place now where like. Because you'll get a game to the table and it'll say 2 to 5, and then you're like, no, this is a 4-player game. And it's like everything else is sort of just a less good version of it. What I am interested in actually as well, Paul. I was wondering if you'd played it, and I was wondering how you felt about it, because I know that bluffing and sort of social deduction or that kind of thing really triggers you. But it sounds like this game hasn't brought that out of you.
No. So it is a hidden role game. But it isn't the hidden role game where you're going, oh, I think you're the devil. Oh, yeah, let's gang up on him. Let's pick on Paul. He's the devil because he's wearing a red shirt. Or so. That whole issue that I have with those kind of social... That's not this. You have a hidden role. You are making secret trades. And there is a phase in the game where you can guess... You try and guess which player is the devil. But you do that by putting a token in your hand and revealing it. There isn't any... I mean, I guess you could have some round-the-table discussion, but that's not part of the game.
I was about to say, it sounds to me, but I guess the game doesn't explicitly rule on that one way or the other.
No.
So it sounds to me like the degree of table talk will be all about your group.
Yes, and you can have it or you can not have it, but that's not an integral part of the game. You can play the game in complete silence, and it's all done through the mechanisms.
I've got several groups that I play with, and I know that there's some players I would play this with who are very sort of Euro-focused players who would probably just sit there and very quietly try to work out who's who by dint of what kind of trades they're receiving or what actions people are taking or how many resources they seem to have. And I've got another group where they're not going to really be tracking that stuff. They're not going to be paying super attention to it, and they're just going to be yelling at each other the entire time. And I'd like to try it with both. I'd love to see how it fits with both groups.
The thing is, with this game, although, as I say, it doesn't trigger my issues with the social deduction side of things, I'm no good at it because I can't work out what's going on. For me, being a Euro gamer, I need to have stuff in front of me. I need to see, if I go to that space, I convert 1 wooden cube into 3 points. Luke's 2 points ahead of me. It's my last turn of the game. I'll go there. I'll spend my wood. I get 3 points. I win the game by 1 point. Right? That's what I want. If you've got, oh, wait a minute, there's all this hidden trading going on. Right? And when we played that game, Andy and Michaela, by halfway through the game, had worked out who was who. I hadn't got the faintest idea. Literally no idea at all. To the point where we were going into one of the bidding rounds or something like, one of the rounds where we guess who's what, and 3 of them guessed that I was the devil. And I'm like, what? Was I acting that suspiciously? And I wasn't the devil, but what I'd done is I'd done some trades. I traded pieces of my soul away to the devil to get the resources to be able to build all the buildings. And that was suspicious. So everybody was thinking, oh, I must be the devil. And then when they found out I wasn't the devil, they went, oh, right, well, what's going on here? And my brain just doesn't work in that way. I'm not able to deduce from partial information what's actually going on. So yeah, this is not a game this is a game which I will happily teach. I will happily watch other people play. And it will be amazing to watch people playing this game. But it's not a game which I could personally play myself. And that's not because I don't like it. It's just because my brain doesn't work that way.
But so I sometimes get deep joy out of playing games I'm bad at.
It's not bad at it. It's feeling completely lost.
Well, they're feeling a sort of a sense of like no directions. What was it? I've been playing a lot of Guards of Atlantis 2 recently.
Right.
I've learned I'm terrible at it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really, really bad at it. But I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But just on Deal with the Devil then. Oh damn! distracted myself.
You have.
We've talked about it a lot already. So.
Well, then let's.
We'll come back to it later.
Yeah. When I remember.
Luke,
I've
pick another
purposely, game. As I say, let's change publisher for a second as well, so I might switch my list around a tiny bit. But
because Deal with the Devil was on your list as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was on my list as well as another one, but we'll come to that later. So to not make it too much CGE love. Now, this next one...
CGE haven't sent me a sword recently, so yeah, we can't talk about them too much.
No. But here, we're continuing the idea of a sort of... We've seen this mechanism done a couple of times before in other games, but still, not a lot. It's called Tribes of the Wind. Le Boîte de Jeu, I think is the pronunciation of the publisher.
Oh, is this the one with the Vincent Dutrait artwork on the front? Yes, it is.
It is, so it already looks gorgeous. The designer has not done a lot of games, which is the slight worry. This is something new, but the win with this is that part of it is based on the Hanabi mechanism of before, where the cards of your opponents dictate what you can do. So again, totally by fluke, it's post-apocalyptic again. I did not hunt that theme down.
That's 3 post-apocalyptic games.
Haven't you done 2?
No. But Revive is set 5,000 years after.
Yeah, I guess that's a new hotness post-apocalyptic.
There's something in the zeitgeist. I wonder what that could be.
Yeah.
I don't think Lacrimosa or Hoplomachus were either of those were post-apocalyptic.
Well, it'll keep Z Garcia happy because he loves post-apocalyptic. But this one, you're trying to rebuild the world, always a good thing. Plant forests, build new villages and temples, decontaminate the areas. But the idea with this, again, taking a mechanism not used much before and trying something different with it, is that you've got to play cards in your hand, but the effect or even the possibility of even playing the card varies depending on the back of your surrounding opponent's cards. So if you're looking at the video there, I mean, BGG's probably got some like in-play photos where it shows like the backs of certain other people's cards having like fire, sun, earth, water, a bit like the Seasons Manor in a sense, all with Vincent's artwork on it. And there's not a huge amount else about the game. There's only so much on BGG referring to it. And as I say, the designer has not done a ton of games before. But again, fine. Something quirky and different, something taking them, because I like the Hanabi mechanism. I like that game. And I think there's another, I forget what other game I played before that used a similar thing of stuff facing away with you was a big deal. Some deduction games have done it as well.
Letter Jam?
Oh yeah, Letter Jam,
Possibly.
yeah, another example.
Yeah.
It wasn't that one, but I mean, yeah, that's another good example. But it goes up to 5 players. Again, I'm slightly worried when they add 5 on the end. But 40 to 90 minutes, weight 2.0, so it's meant to be quite light as well. So as much as Mark has said, Essen is very Eurocentric. It's nice to go back to something that isn't 3.5 hours Eurocentric.
Yeah.
I had heard of this one only because I've seen the box cover. I knew nothing else about it other than that. But just going back to what I touched upon about games which I can't play because my brain doesn't work that way. Hanabi. The last time I played Hanabi, people went, Paul, that's a blue card or whatever. And I'm like, can somebody explain what that means? Well, yeah, because you said that's a blue card, then that means this, then that means that. Therefore, we know that you've got this. Therefore, that. And I just went, well, I'm out.
Hanabi is possibly the best example of trying to make decisions with incomplete information.
Exactly.
That's the entire game.
That's the tenses of it. Hanabi, I don't own it anymore because it's at every library and cafe I can find, so it's not like I needed it. But it used to be with an ex-girlfriend, and she didn't like board games at all or any of the games I played. But Hanabi was the one game us two could play that she loved and she wanted to play religiously. So on every camping trip we did do, I was ordered to bring that Hanabi game. Yeah. So it's already got like a bit of history. But again, I like that tension of incomplete information because it's like, all right, you've told me this, so I can figure out, a bit like playing The Crew. You have incomplete information in that one. Yeah. But when somebody plays a card, you're thinking, right, well, they've played the 4 pink. That means they think I've got the highest card. Should I tell them that? And I like those gears turning. But then you've got that tension of, because it's incomplete information, I want to sort of go, is this good? Ow!
Yeah, it's your best possible deduction, yeah.
Yeah. Is this anywhere on your lists, Mark or Mike?
Not for me, no. It looks like it's not even a soloable game, is it? Basically,
No.
so
you can't solo a game where the cards have got to face away. I mean, I suppose you could. You just like have a random stand and just put cards on it. But I mean, not everything needs a solo mode.
Yeah,
I have this.
You won't be out of a channel, Mark, if a couple of games don't have solo modes.
What did I say earlier? I love the fact that Deal with the Devil is unapologetically four-player.
Yes.
I think, I even did a video on I think it was my Pendulum video where I said not every game needs a solo mode.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, Mark, just going off tangent a minute and back to the previous game, you're coming to GridCon. If you want to play Deal with the Devil, and that might be your only time you play it, come to GridCon, play Deal with the Devil.
I've also got a feeling that Deal with the Devil will be in many hotel lobbies at Essen as well. It's kind of the ideal situation.
But it's quite a brain-burny game.
Right, okay, fine.
Yeah.
GridCon would be your best chance. Come find me because I'm certain I'll have it. Because remember, any game I teach you at GridCon is already great. Remember Art Nova. There you go.
I did beat you one game. There we go.
Anyway, Mike, is this on your list at all?
Yeah, it's on my list of games to look out for. Because I mean, it's for me, it's not a must pick up at Essen because it kind of falls into a range of games that it's probably a bit too light for me to cover in any meaningful way on my channel. But just because we tend to spend time on sort of heavier games, bigger investments in terms of time and money.
I mean, the weight rating on BGG is 2.0. 2.0 is low. If that's accurate, that's low.
Yeah. That is low, but then.
But
it's not to say it's bad.
I do absolutely like these kinds of games. Both I like Hanabi, I like light games, and for sure I'm definitely keen to take a look at this one.
Well, if Luke's got a copy at GridCon, there you go.
Yeah, we can.
There's your chance. There's your chance.
We can play it at Essen. Why can't we play it?
Or we could play it at Essen.
I was going to say I could play this one at Essen, no problem.
Yeah, I think Luke and I breezed through about 5 games while we were waiting for you, Paul, at Essen last year.
Right. What I'm going to do for my next pick is I'm just going to go to the Spiel preview because I haven't got mine in any order whatsoever, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to order it by Thumb's hotness list. And the top of the list is Hamlet, the village building game. I will talk about this because I saw this last year. I like village building games. I like the look of the artwork. I like the designers of the work. I like the stuff that Mighty Boards produce. So I had a look at it last year. It's actually out this year, and I'm going to be I'm picking up a copy, and I am going to be covering it on the channel in October. So is this anybody? Oh, there you go. Mark's got a copy.
No, that's the preview copy. So
that's the preview copy.
Right,
yeah. I did preview this, and this came out really, really quickly. I think it was kind of March time this year. I previewed this, February, March time, something like that. And it's relatively straightforward, easy to learn, but pretty compelling village building game, as you say. Obviously plays from 1 to a number of players. Can't remember any. 1 to 4 players.
Yeah.
It's twee, it's cute, but it's got a lot of depth there as well as you're kind of generating your resources and building your roads and trying to spread out and ultimately trying to build your church so that your village becomes a hamlet, or your hamlet becomes a village, should I say. So a hamlet apparently is a village without a central meeting point. So they have central meeting point there. Yeah.
This one's got a lot of high notes from the stats on BGG because I'm very confused why this is the top out of all the games at Essen. I was really curious as to why this had the most funds out of everything because I wasn't.
It's accessible, I think, and that's the key. I know, at Essen we do like a lot of our deep and our crunchy euros. This gives you that feel, but it's still very accessible as well. I think it's not quite what must be a bit. No, I suppose family weight game, but with enough challenge there to kind of make it interesting for experienced players as well.
Yeah. I like 1 to 4, 16 and 90, 2.5. I mean, it certainly doesn't look like a family weight. This one looks like it's got a bit more depth from that. We'll gloss over its tagline of the village building game. That really didn't need to be on the cover.
Well, it might. Yeah. Well, no, because of the picture obviously makes it look like you're building a village. But when I said to the 2 people that were around last night that I'm picking up a copy of Hamlet, they instantly assumed it was a game about Shakespeare. So the fact that it's Hamlet, the village building game. Also, there's another couple of games on BGG called Hamlet. So
well, I'm not calling it the village building game. The designer is definitely a highlight, though. Not because he did Pursuit of Happiness, which is a game I've raved about. So if he's done this one, that's already put an extra thumb on it.
Now, Mark, you've presumably only played this solo, but do you have an idea of how the multiplayer game would work from your solo game?
I can't remember, but to tell you the truth, because it's a while since I last played it, so I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. Yeah, but I think it's there is an element of kind of stealing resources and putting the right tiles out as well. So there are certain tiles, as you can see, it's kind of got what's the word I'm looking for in terms of the uneven tiles? What's the word I'm looking for? Polyominoous tiles. Polyominoous tiles, yeah. It's polyominoous tiles. So it's got those, and I think you get to choose them at certain points. So if you generate the right kind of thing, you can choose the tiles. And that way, if it's your tile, you get the resources that are on there. So there's a bit of an element of not quite doing people over, but at least getting to the right tile first. So I think it worked well, yeah.
Paulie says in chat that it's okay, quite fiddly versus the payoff.
Okay. Well, that's worthwhile to keep an eye on. As far as why it's number one on the hotness list, I believe, and this could be a fabrication, but the designer has 600 fake BGG accounts. So it could be that. I don't know. Sorry, David, if you're watching, that was a joke. I don't mean it, but...
He did. It's all right, Dave. I've got Pursuit. We know you're good.
So, yeah, I don't know if we've had this conversation, Luke, but... and this is going off at a complete tangent, so I'll tell you this in the car on the way to Essen. But... I actually designed a game myself, which was 75% the same as Pursuit of Happiness. And then
you mentioned this before, actually.
Right. Well, I'll tell you the full story in Essen. And then I met David at Essen the year that Pursuit of Happiness came out, and I told him about my game idea that I'd had, and I'd even pitched it to Vlada Shavatel, and we chatted about it and everything else, and then David ended up producing Pursuit of Happiness, and he just thought it was this great sort of story. Anyway, I that's sort of when I first sat down and had a chat with him and got to know him, and we've stayed in contact since. So anyway, so Hamlet, the village building game, or a village building game, the village building game,
the Shakespearean village game,
the Shakespearean village building game. So yeah, as I say, I'm picking that up. I'm definitely bringing it back with me. But if I wasn't a content creator, that would be one that I would definitely be seeking out anyway. As I say, I like city building games. Right, back to you, Mark. Sorry, Mike, go on.
Sorry, just to jump in before we moved off of Hamlet. Yeah, I saw this at UKG. I thought it looked really neat. I was already a backer on Kickstarter. Like the minute you're like, build a little village, do a thing like that.
I forgot if it was a Kickstarter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a big old Kickstarter. But I think it was one of those things that was effectively pre-order because it's fulfilled so fast. That
might be why I didn't back it then. Because the theme would have got me interested, but if I'd realised it was just pre-ordering it, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, wait.
So, Mike, you've backed this game. When are you getting your copy of it?
I don't know, Paul. Probably not for a while.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, it is fulfilling now, yeah. So it
is fulfilling now, yeah. But the UK hasn't even started yet, so.
Well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hopefully get that Essen. I know I'm meeting with Mighty Boards at one point, so yeah. See what I can get there.
Right.
The Kickstarter was for the deluxe version, so I'm gonna have the version with miniatures, trees, buildings, that kind of thing.
Okay. And mine will just have little bits of plain half-inch cardboard.
And we'll have artwork. Yeah.
Right then. Okay, Mark, over to you.
So one for me, and I demoed this at UKG. I played a demo of it. I didn't demo it myself. I played a demo of it at UKG. Now, I have almost zero interest in football, soccer, but I do like a Euro game, and therefore I was. I was really, I was really surprised that I enjoyed 11 when I was shown the demo of it at UKG as much as I did. I think it's a really, really well put together and well structured game. Even if you don't like football, if you do like football, I think it's really going to be high up on your list as well. The mechanisms, I only played a few rounds of it, but the mechanisms seem to mesh really well. I like the match mechanism where you kind of, as you build your team up, your players get stronger and you get the opportunity to shoot, but they've got defense as well at the same time. It's resource management, it's team management. I'm really interested to see play through the final version of this as well. I thought it was great, and it goes to show that, and I suppose people are very passionate about football, and therefore you'd think that only football fans would like a football game. But let's think about most Euros. Nobody, look at Lacrimosa. A lot of us aren't really interested in kind of Renaissance era music, or you look at whatever Euro, basically Golem. but it just shows that if the mechanisms work well, the theme can be incorporated. Now, this one is pretty well thematic. It's not dry and themeless. You know, everything that runs through it is football related, but you don't need to know masses about football for it. I know there's various expansions and there's various tournament modes as well. The solo looks like it plays really good. So I think 11, if it's on Portal, I believe they've had a bit of a problem with the shipping, but it should be more or less sorted now. There's a problem with the container or something like that, but hopefully it'll be there. And again, I can see this being really, really well received. Luke, you did preview it, didn't you? Yeah,
I did, but a long time ago, because I don't really care much for football, but I was interested in the theme of this because, again, something different. You can ham it up. I mean, I don't need to like football to know all the cliches and everything about normal Premiership football. So it's like, yeah, we can have fun with it. What I played was like about a year and a half ago or so that was an early prototype copy where I'm sure they've changed the rules a ton since then, because the management side of it I was really into. What I was concerned about was the match playing part, because it sort of felt like two of you ended up having a match and then the other players kind of had to sit around waiting for it to finish. Now, that may have changed completely since then by the time we got to UKGE, because this was early days. But the management side of it, it was pretty simplistic and you got to have fun with it. But yeah, I think that video is probably out of date like miles now.
9th of September 2021 you did it, Luke, so...
My understanding from the demo at UKG was that you don't actually play matches against each other. You just play matches against a sort of abstracted opponent and then move up and down in a league together.
I was trying to remember because it was a while back, but I remember like that match bit taking quite a while compared to like the actual management side of it. Like I said, it may have changed. I
found that really exciting, the match bit. It's kind of almost deterministic in what you're doing there because of the relative either skills or strengths of the players on your side and on the opposing side as well. So kind of building your team up to get into that position felt really good. And I thought the matches, slightly complex, but played really, really well and exciting as well.
Yeah, to jump in here real quick as well to mention a few things. One, there's a lot of negative commentary around Portal in chat here. Do you want to elaborate, people who are talking about Portal in chat?
No, I think we'll skip past that.
Okay, we're going to skip past that.
We'll skip past that.
The second thing is the game's rating on BGG is quite low, and I know that's because it's I think that was two things. It's a re-implementation of Club Stories, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually a sort of technically a second edition and a big publication of Club Stories had a really big
same designer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same designer. But I think that the people who are really into Club Stories felt like that this re-implementation hasn't really done it a good service. I don't really know about that, but I did look into that when I demoed it. And the other thing was the price of the Kickstarter. It was quite expensive to get all the expansions on Kickstarter.
That did worry me, the fact there was all these tag-ons for it. It's like, no, give me the base game and make that work first. Then you give me a bunch of the tag-ons. Yeah.
Having said that, what I did see at the UKG from the demo, I really like the look of it. And I'm with Mark on the football thing. It looks like it's almost sort of like 60-40, 60% managing the team, setting everything up, and then 40% sort of putting all of that into place and sort of carrying out this sort of mini game where you're resolving a match to see if you've done a good job. And there is some random elements to that. So for those of you Euro gamers out there looking at this, those random elements you might find off-putting. There is dice, and you are setting up sort of dice mitigation. So you will have to roll dice. And if you've not invested in mitigating the results, it could be quite swingy. But I mean, it's not massively swingy, but swingy for a Euro style game. But I thought that was exciting, and I really liked what I saw, and I was keen to check it out further at Essen. So,
I have zero interest in this one for a number of reasons, but it sounds like most other people are quite positive about it. So, you won't be seeing this covered on my channel, but you will likely be seeing it covered on other people's channels, I think.
Yeah, I should be getting a copy of it, but not whether it's at Essen or later, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to see how it's changed.
Right. Who was that? That was Mark, wasn't it?
That was me.
Yeah, sorry.
You're right, Mike.
No, I was just going to say as well, I forgot that you were looking at the preview version, Luke, because I saw the retail version at UKG.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't go to the UKG because my eldest brother decided to be mean and get married on that weekend. I mean, how could he?
How inconsiderate.
They could have picked any other weekend, but no, that weekend.
Right. So is it back to me? Is that what
It
I
is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel like
minimum weight 4.5, I'm guessing.
So this is actually one I want to ask you about, Paul, because I think that you might have had some experience with the predecessor of this. So are you going to be looking up Crossing Oceans?
I've never heard of it.
I've only heard that name. I know nothing about this one.
Crossing Oceans.
You're not up with it then. So I'm a big Matt Gertz fan, right?
Oh, is this Transatlantic 2?
Yes. This is
Transatlantic. I didn't realise they'd renamed it.
I'm out, yep.
I didn't realise that they'd renamed it to a different game.
Yes, I saw the cover of this and I thought, why does that remind me of another game? And it's like, yeah, it's the same cover.
Right.
So I never got to play Transatlantic, and by the time I got an opportunity, I heard it was not good. So I'm quite excited to see, because generally speaking, I've very much enjoyed Max games and the Rondel system and all that kind of stuff. My favorite probably is Antica 2, which is probably your least favorite, Paul. I don't know, but
I've played it. It was okay. Navigador is probably my favorite, not counting Concordia.
Yeah, it's all right.
I like Antica 2.
It needs a group that knows what it's doing, otherwise it completely goes out of balance. You need to know what you're doing with each faction.
With each faction, well, it's not asymmetrical factions, but the different factions have different starting points and so different opportunities to exploit. But it's also very short. Like, Antica 2, even when I've played it up to 5, is still sub 90 minutes. So I think it's over pretty quickly, and I think it fits a very interesting little spot. Anyway, back to Crossing Oceans.
aka Transatlantic 2.
AKA Transatlantic 2. Yeah. I'm literally just excited for this because I like the designer, and it looks like his last one was a bit of a flop, and he's taken it away and tried to reinvigorate it. So and address people's concerns. So I'm excited to check it out further. I don't know if everyone else seems pretty cool.
I've not played Transatlantic, so I don't know really.
Yeah, I've just seen the pictures for the first time, and it's colourful, isn't it?
It's a nice map.
So yeah, I don't know anything about this. It's not solo build, but you know what? If I do like a crunchy Euro, and wouldn't mind playing this with somebody else at some point. Yeah, looks interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how crunchy it will actually be, but I do find that Max games typically have quite low rules overhead, given the
3
depth
pages
in them.
or something.
It doesn't even have a weight rating apparently.
So I'm looking at the rulebook here now, and it is something like 7 pages, including setup.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
that's okay.
It's really relatively short.
I think it's like the theme of Transatlantic. When I heard what the theme was, it's like whatever. This won't. As I say, it won't get me in. Matt Gertz's history. I didn't mind Imperial and Imperial 2030. Those were right. They were a bit different, but he did also do a certain other game with a map of Europe that we won't go into too much detail over. That's not a favorite, but
so the guy who uploaded this video, Philippe Schmidt, he's my contact at PD Verlag. I have a good relationship with him over email. And for those of you who don't know, I was very, very critical of the first Transatlantic. I did a review video that was very, very negative about the first Transatlantic. So I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to ask Philip if I can bring a copy of it back, because there was a good game in there, but unfortunately Transatlantic had rules issues, graphic design issues, and gameplay issues. If they fixed all of those things, the good game that was in there is hopefully going to come out. So I'm very keen to try this copy of this new version of the game. I've heard on the grapevine that it does fix all of the issues that I had with it before, but I'll have to see. So yeah, I'm very keen on it from more of a comparison point of view. We'll see how it is. But yeah, right then. So it's a hard pass for Luke. Luke's not going to like this at all. You're not.
I never played it. I probably won't. The theme and the designer doesn't speak to me. So
yeah, you're not. You're not. And Mark, you were saying that there isn't a solo mode. I'm guessing there wouldn't be a solo mode for this.
And
that's fine.
He made one of my most hated games. I'll probably pass.
Yeah, 2 to 4 players.
Wow, that's a strong reaction.
Oh, trust me. My hatred of that game is almost a meme at this point.
It is. It is a meme. It is a meme. Anyway, Luke, let's talk about a game that you are looking forward to.
Right, well, we're going to go to the complete thematic opposite spectrum of that one because I don't know. They both involve ships.
Okay.
Just one's a shipping boat or whatever, a freight crate or whatever that one is, or something. This one's a spaceship. Because going back to CGE, if anybody is into Star Trek, how can they not be looking forward to Starship Captains?
Yeah.
Now, first design, okay, fair enough. Although, the guy from Tabletop Together,
it's the guy from Tabletop Together, yeah.
Yeah, so he does that useful tool, and he's a nice bloke. So I'm curious to see how a first design goes through. But I mean, I don't even need to know the mechanics. It's like you just read the description or something. It's like you mix action, selection, engine building, whatever. You manage a diverse crew of cadets, ensign, androids, each with special roles, earn medals, upgrade your ship, build technology, basically do Star Trek the board game. And I mean, I wouldn't call myself a Trekkie, but there are certain series of Star Trek I really like. And honestly, as I say, there are some I love and some I don't. But this has theme all over it. So I'll just simply get into it and just make a million Star Trek references and probably enjoy myself with this.
See, I've only just noticed now, so it's just been announced, hasn't it, that they've now got a solo mode for this? Because originally, was it 3 players minimum this, or was it 2?
No. It was 2 to 4, and then they just recently put a solo mode in, which has me slightly worried because A, I didn't ask for it, but B, when you bolt it on at the last minute, that makes me concerned as to whether it will work.
And whether you asked for the solo mode, that's the important thing, isn't it, Luke? There, because you didn't ask for it.
I love playing games solo. I just think not every game needs to cater for it if it doesn't warrant it.
No, and you know what? I've heard a lot of good buzz about this. And Paul obviously knows more about it. And
no, I don't.
Do you not? No, I thought
you
did.
No, Paul was stuck with Deal with the Devil. He hasn't really looked at this one. And I mean,
I previewed this at UKG.
There you go. So Mike knows about it. Tell us about it.
I know
Mike.
about it.
Tell us
I'm
about
a big Trekkie, so I'm a big old Trekkie. Obviously, I'm 90s Trekkie child.
See, I prefer Trekker as a term, but
Trekker. But I mean, I don't know like a massive amount about it, but effectively, what you've got is you've got your shipboard, and you've got crew that move around on the ship in this kind of like little sort of rondelle mechanism, and they can be upgraded to do better actions. It looks like a big part of it is actually contract fulfillment, which is kind of interesting. Not what I would have expected, but the contracts manifest as the missions that you're going to go and do on your planetary explorations, and there's all kinds of different sort of missions, that are flavored towards Star Trek. I think it does look. I mean, it's not as tongue-in-cheek as something like Lower Decks, which is actual Star Trek, even though it's very tongue-in-cheek. But it does have a little bit of tongue-in-cheek flavor. But it's certainly more.
You could make it tongue-in-cheek. I mean, you could just invent. I mean, whether you want to try and base your ship upon the actual Star Trek series or just create a complete parody of it, it'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, and obviously it's not officially licensed, and I think that they've made and I remember the different colors of the crew being
it does look upsetting. very very similar to Star Trek visually.
Oh,
I mean that's a deliberate thing, but they've run it a bit close to the wire, I think, with how much it does look like Star Trek. But
Talia and Pirates of the Caribbean, it was like somewhat close look-wise.
I'm intrigued enough by this just to take a punt on it. I think when I get to Essen, this will be a game I'm going to pick up relatively blind. It looks fun, and it looks like if I don't like it, it'll be relatively straightforward to obviously move it on as well at that point. So I should imagine there'll be people would want it. But yeah, I think I'm going to take a punt on this, a little bit blind. But CG games, I'm not, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of Arnak. But I know.
Ooh,
I appreciate Arnak. I don't enjoy playing it. But I'll take a punt on this.
I appreciate it. I appreciate
it. Well, I'm not going to say anything after because it'll be too big.
I totally get what you mean, Mark, and I say that about a lot of games. I mean, I could say that about Deal with the Devil. I absolutely respect
I don't like it.
the genius design of Deal with the Devil. Am I ever going to actually enjoy playing it myself? Unlikely, just because I'll feel lost for 2 hours and I won't know what I'm doing.
CGE will get because I'm a big theme lover with the games I play, whether it's Euro or not. CGE usually get the theme right and try something quirky.
Yeah,
you know, like Dungeon Pets does not get talked about a lot, but man, me and three mates love the theme of that one because it's just so funny with the little goblins taking care of tiny little monsters in the zoo. But then now we've got a Star Trek one. Lost Ruins of Arnak did the whole Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones thing really well. Under Falling Skies was Space Invaders, the dice game, basically. They always take a pretty interesting theme and do it justice in a sense. Like that, these aren't the sort of people that go, right, here's your really great little setting and theme and IP, and then make it a rondel game or something.
Yeah. So I said I know very little about this one.
Won't give up on that Matt Gertz stuff, even though he's most hated one. It's Matt's only non-rondel design.
To be honest, I couldn't think of a mechanism, and the first thing that came to my mind was rondel. I think you just put it in my head.
It's subconscious Matt Gertz hate. Well, the thing is, I like. I mean, and also, it's speaking of their quirky themes. Last Will is a CG, and I love their quirky take on the theme in that. So, but yeah, Starship Captains. While I remember, it is. I was thinking about Outer Rim, actually. Not a good comparison. Starship Captains is very much more Euro focused, even though it's much quirkier than Outer Rim. Yeah. It does feel very much like it's going to be a sort of a Euro style game of managing systems, rather than even the marketplaces are quite big. So you've got lots of choice there. You're not going to be. So it feels like it's sort of mitigated for that a lot. But I don't mind crunchy Euro systems with tongue-in-cheek themes laid on top. I quite like it, so I'm keen to look at this one for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be medium weight. I don't think it's overly complex. No. It says 2.5 on BGG, so yeah.
I mean, this one with this, because I know we mentioned like what you thought the darling of Essen was, and you got like Lacrimosa, which I have to admit, from a heavy Euro perspective, I think that probably will be the.
I don't think it's heavy. Lacrimosa is
the quintessential Euro game of Essen. But I think I think much like the year when they brought out Arnak and Falling Skies together, I think CG will just own Essen though, because of having Starship Captains and Deal with the Devil there, two games that have been quite buzzed about. I can see a lot of people sort of hoarding around that booth.
Yeah, I've not played Starship Captains yet. It's the only game from CGE for the last 14 years that I've had zero involvement in. Not played a prototype, didn't work on the rules, not played it, not demoed it, not done a video for it, nothing. So I know less about this than most other people. Except...
What did you do, Paul? What did you do?
I've just been sitting around playing with the cats and eating ice cream.
I was thinking, did they literally just keep you in a sealed other room? But while this has been demoed.
I've not been involved in this one at all. I am aware.
PG stands for Keep Grogan Expelled. That's what it stands for.
I am aware of CGE's process for taking on new games and their process for games being pitched to them, and how they evaluate them. And I know the people involved in that, and I know that they only take on good games. So I am pretty sure that this game, like Arnak, and this is not having played it yet, but assuming it's solid mechanically, I think this is going to be one of the hits of Essen.
Yeah, they because they picked up Arnak when it was the first time design, wasn't it? Didn't they?
They did, but the people who designed Arnak actually work for CGE. So they were internal people. Yes, it was their first time design, whereas this is not an internal CGE person. I mean, I've known Peter, the designer of this, for
like
years.
Nepotism, deploy internet rage.
Absolutely. So, I've known Peter. And it's the guy from behind, Tabletop Together, the Tabletop Together tool that we've all used for ages.
I've got to make that painfully clear, because I didn't make it clear enough when I talked about it originally, because I didn't recognize the name at first. It's like, whoops. It's now I got to say it every single time.
Yeah. Right then. So whose was that? Was that yours, Luke?
That was mine. So it's yours.
Which means we're going to go on to some Uwe Rosenberg. And we're going to talk about Atiwa. Now,
we're going to talk about this cover first.
The cover's awful. I do not like the cover at all. And I know very little about this game, apart from it's Uwe Rosenberg. It's 1 to 4 players. It's farming, but it's bat farming. and therefore it's on my list. I'm a fan of most Uwe Rosenberg games.
Yeah, and you're a huge fan of bat farming as well.
I love bat farming is like my second hobby to board games.
You got to feed your bats.
Yeah. So yeah, I know very little about it other than it's an Uwe Rosenberg game and it's definitely worth checking out.
It certainly has a very different look to it than what the cover would suggest. Because, I mean, yeah, fruit bats are a thing, but you are sort of, in a sense, trying to build up a little forest or little town reserve thing. It's a small community basically, and it's all about environmental conservation. It's just the fruit bats are a big part of it, which is why they feature there. But when I saw that cover, I thought it was a bear with bat wings or something, because it really does. That's the first thing I thought it was, because that cover is just hideous.
Yeah, it's not the nicest front cover, I will admit.
But Uwe Rosenberg, I'm automatically going to look at it. Yeah,
just look at that board with those pieces on it.
Yeah. I'll take any farming game he does, because I do love that as a theme. I'll be curious if you have to feed your bats or feed your people, because I swear, because Uwe Rosenberg, I swear, was starved as a child or something, neglect or something, because he is just obsessed with feeding your people. It's clearly he's always hungry or never had enough food when he was younger.
Well, he's a board game designer.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. We've got little bat meeples. So
yeah, what I'm particularly interested about, actually, just catching my eye here, Paul, is the weight on the front page of BGG. There's 3, which is a good point less than his other sort of big box advanced level games.
This is not a big box.
Well,
this is not a Feast for Odin or anything like that.
No, I mean, there's 2 things for that. I mean, it still says advanced level on the cover for Lookout Games,
but that's Lookout Games' classification.
Yeah, but as much as we've used the weight rating on BGG to sort of classify a bunch of those games, the stat is rubbish. So it's not really something to sort of base too much.
I like that stat as long as it's accurate, and I find most of the time the weight ratings are accurate. I wouldn't trust it for this because the game's not out yet. But if it is 3, that's fine. 3 for me is fine. I'm happy with that.
I'll be honest with you guys. I've only ever played a Feast for Odin. That's the only Rosenberg game I've ever played. So
that's high on the complexity level.
This looks just like most Uwe games that I've seen, variations on a theme. So I can't imagine that the mechanisms are going to be wildly different to any other Rosenberg game. As Luke said, it's farming, it's feeding, basically. Is that right?
There could be a bit of that. I mean, that is one thing. As much as I like the theme in a lot of his games, he is kind of stuck on rinse repeat. It's right, you've given me Caverna, you've given me Fields of Arle, I don't need Halato and all the other stuff that came after it or something, because we need to change things up a little bit, which is why this wasn't on my hyped list. But I mean, I want mutant bear bats and see what they're like. But
yeah, there is sort of subtle differences. I mean, I've played I've played quite a lot of his games. I haven't played all of them. And let us not forget that this probably also has growth, breeding or growth.
Yes, something like that.
That's probably something like that. But Hallertau did have a wacky set of objectives. So there was a sort of an objective deck in there that was pretty nuts.
It had that card deck, which was a neat idea. It was just really swingy.
It was very swingy, and that had some sort of Uwe traditionalists up in arms. Whereas I think other people who are less familiar with his work would have just been kind of they probably wouldn't have even parsed it that well, or as something significant. So I do think he does have he does try sort of new things, and but they tend to be sort of subtle variations and reiterations. Yeah. I'm definitely keen to try it. I really like Uwe, but I also think unless you've got this kind of academic interest in his work, this would be, I think for people, this would probably, because it looks like from the images here that this is a reasonably large style box, so you're probably looking at 60 to 80 euros for this.
Yeah, if this is advanced level, it's going to be a big box. I guarantee. I'll bet money that there is a book that's as big, if not bigger, than the actual rule book, which is purely just the history of Atiwa. Because he's very possibly done that. He did that with Fields of Arle. It's
the one in Feast for Odin is fantastic. I really enjoyed that because he's clearly done so much historical research into it, and it's all in there. I found that really useful. It's not for everybody, but the fact that there's this extra appendix with all of this stuff in there was really good.
Yeah, but just obsessed with feeding. I mean, just become a chef or something if you're that strapped for food.
So I'm looking up Atiwa because when I think I saw the price of it and I thought that sounds quite cheap.
It's in chat. MSRP, 56 euros. Yeah. I still think though, like this could possibly. I mean, I will definitely get this because I like Uwe. I've got a lot of his games. I'm really keen to see what happens in this one, but I don't know if this necessarily would fall into a must-buy list if I was just a punter.
Nah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. That's me. Back to Mark, I think.
Back to me. So moving away from Euros now, and I don't know massive amounts about this game, but it's Heat, Pedal to the Metal.
This is on my list.
I better find it. I better find another replacement then, because I was about to do that one.
It's on my list as well, so we can all talk about it.
There we go.
Great.
So this.
Except for Mike, it's too light for him.
No, I just said this was on my list.
So is this the guy that did Flamme Rouge, isn't it? This is the same designer as Flamme Rouge.
This is the co-design, but yes.
Yeah, so, and again, artwork by Vincent Dutray, and it's a hand management car racing game. Now, obviously, I think, the kind of the most, other than Downforce, the most recent kind of racing game would have been Rallyman GT, which is obviously a lot of dice play involved in this, but this is like hand management card. It looks fun. I don't know massive amounts about it. Only learned about it a couple of days ago, and I thought, you know what, this is a game that I'd like to pick up. It's got tournament modes in there, etc. You see the various pictures on BGG, little cars going around these boards, and if the guy who did Flamme Rouge, is doing a car racing game, then of course he knows about racing. So yeah, this one is. I say I don't know massive amounts about it, but it's certainly one that I'm going to pick up. I think when I'm at Essen. Mike, you know more about it?
Not really much, actually, Mark. I just knew that it was from that designer, and it doesn't look like it looks like its own separate thing, because obviously the big deal in Flamme Rouge is how you control like the two cyclists.
Yeah, I mean, this is
play them off each other, and this doesn't have that. So,
well, they've got the player boards with some card mechanism. It's just not that same one by the looks of it. But I mean, four tracks in a base box. That's even better than what Downforce did. That artwork, yes, it's Formula One. Maybe we'll be able to pimp it up with Mario Kart figures in the future. I don't know, because I did that with Downforce, and it makes it like twice as good. But yeah, you know what? I love racing games, and there's not enough of them. I'll gladly take, especially from Days of Wonder of all people, who a light game is their wheelhouse. Granted, they've had a couple of misses in recent years, but if they can get back on form, I'll hope it's with this one.
Family weight game.
Yeah. I agree with Luke on all of those points, and also it goes up to 6, which sounds great.
Yeah.
So for me, Days of Wonder, mostly tick. As I say, there is a couple of them. Maybe not so good, but Days of Wonder do games that sit in a nice weight category that are suitable for families, but also good as a shorter game for gamers. So production quality is going to be good. Based on the mechanisms from Flamme Rouge, which is, and I'm going to give you a fact here, not opinion, Flamme Rouge, the number 1 racing game ever designed. That's fact, because I said it on the internet, therefore that's true.
It'd be a top 10. Yeah,
I love Flamme Rouge. Flamme Rouge is possibly even a top 10 game for me, if not top 10, top 20, because Flamme Rouge is so good as a game. I absolutely love it. And I think I still got it. Yeah. I think this has. I don't know the details, but it's by the same designer, and I think it's got similarities. I'm also a Formula One fan. So this game is ticking a lot of my boxes. And I had an email yesterday from my contact of Days of Wonder who said, yes, you can have a copy of the game for the GridCon Games Library, aka a copy for me, which is going to go into the GridCon Games Library.
Yeah.
So this is going to get played at GridCon. I can guarantee you this is going to get played at GridCon.
Well, can we play at Essen? I mean, can you pick it up at Essen?
We can play it at Essen. I'm picking it up on the Wednesday.
Sweet, we'll do that.
This is a perfect game. Like, we're not going to go back to the hotel after a night at Essen and play Deal with the Devil, no matter how good it is. Are we going to go back and play a 6-player game of Heat? Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, a 3-hour Euro game is going to take time to learn, punch out everything. Wait till you get home. You play the quick stuff.
Exactly. So I'm all over this one. Absolutely all over it. I mean, it says 30 to 60 minutes. So, yeah.
You'll be able to learn it in 5 to 10. I mean, this is, 6 players racing game. This is so going to get compared to Downforce. It's unreal. And certainly when I play it, that's going to be my benchmark. Right. A 6-player racing game. So Can't wait to see how it turns out.
I've never played Downforce, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, why is nobody mentioning Formula D? I always thought that was really good.
Because
it's awful.
It's too long. I mean,
and that's a fact as well. Just so we're clear.
I've only played short maps. I haven't played it.
You can only. I mean, playing one lap is what you need to do. Anyway, I don't mind Formula D. The dice is cool. The problem you have is that you've got to tell people that if they're the sort of person that's going to count spaces, they need to leave immediately, because it's like, this is a racing game where you chuck dice. Stop counting the spaces and just throw the rotten things. It takes forever.
Formula D does take forever. But anyway, so this is high on. I can't even remember who chose this one.
Me, Mark.
Right, because
which surprises me actually.
Yeah, and it's 1 to 6 players. So I'm also keen to see how the solo mode works in a racing game.
I didn't even know it was a solo game. I just didn't know this was your wheelhouse.
I like it. I do like a dice chucking game. Oh, well, no, this is not dice chucking, but I do like a quick game, should I say, and relatively, it's not all Euros. Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Cool. Right, Mike.
Right. All right. As we approach the 2 hour, the 2 hour mark.
We're 1 hour 40, so we've probably got a game each, and then we'll just do some random chatter about how good Liverpool is on a Saturday morning.
The chat can fire us games and we can mention them. So.
Yeah.
Just having a quick look here.
If you've got any games that you want to talk about while we're all doing our final choices, effectively, let us know and we'll talk about them. We'll look them up. We'll tell you what we think of them.
I did. I posted a big long list of things that I'm keen to look at to one of my Patreon page posts. Okay. So there is an awful lot more games here on this list.
Yeah, so there's 1,000 games coming out at Essen. So.
Yeah. I mean, and we've all already talked about Tillitum, which I was keen for, particularly because I'm a Simone Luciani fan. But
we talked about it before we went live.
Oh, did we? Well, I'm not gonna. I don't want it to take my slot here. What I'm gonna talk about actually is the War of the Ring card game.
Right.
I can't find another one now.
This is.
You can talk about Tillitum.
So we played this at. We played this at the UKG.
Yep.
And it's from
Ares.
Ian Cody. It's Ian Ares Brody. Games. Yeah. Ian Brody, Ian Brody is the designer who's best known for Quartermaster General series, which I don't have a lot of experience on, but I understand that this game is based
They're good games, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand this is very closely based on the mechanisms of that one.
Is it?
But
I didn't know that. Okay.
How would that work?
Yeah, this is 2 to 4.
Like I said, I don't know necessarily if that's true. That's just what I've heard. But we played this at the UKG. We played it 4 players, 2 teams of 2. So you got 2, and it's 2v2 game. It's pretty much designed to be a 2v2 game.
Okay.
And you're gonna have a hard time playing it in any other format.
Right. Okay.
So it's another one of those that sort of fits into a very niche player configuration.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I like the art is from sort of all of Ares Games' Lord of the Rings stuff, and they've also got access to the John Howe art.
Yeah, it's John Howe. So
yeah. I mean, they've used John Howe's art and a bunch of other artists, and it's great. It's really, really good. It's very thematic. If you're playing on the side of light, then you're playing. One side's going to be the sort of the armies and Aragorn and all those folks, and the other side's going to be like the hobbits. Aragorn. Sorry, what did I say?
Aragorn, you said.
Did I?
No, I don't think you did. It's Luke's hearing.
As an aside, apparently, so I'm going to get this wrong now, but the card they use for Aragorn is apparently after he's become king of
go on
the become king again, and he's changed his name to something else. So it's not technically Aragorn anymore. But I don't know. So I was playing with a buddy of mine who knows a lot about Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
He was calling them out. Isildur. No, Isildur's is he's a descendant of Isildur.
Yeah, he's Isildur's heir.
Yeah, and he changes his name to something else after he becomes king, so he's no longer Aragorn.
Look it up. But he's King of Gondor.
He was King of Gondor in the movie. That's what I remember.
Yes, but someone in chat must know.
I have some lore knowledge, but not extensive. Your mate clearly knows more than I do, but.
So I have fairly extensive knowledge of Lord of the Rings.
Elisar, thank you.
I didn't know that.
Becomes king. Yeah, after he becomes king of Gondor and the White City, he renames himself Elisar. And so the art they've used is John Howe's painting of Elisar. Right. And so Chris was like, this isn't Aragorn. And I was like, okay. But I got to play as the hobbits. And if you're playing as the evil side, then one of you is Saruman and the forces of Isengard, and the other one's Sauron and the forces of Mordor. And you've got sort of limited actions on your turn to play. What's going to happen is there's going to be a track down the middle of the board, which is battlefields, and you're going to sort of go around in rounds fighting over these battlefields, and you're cycling a deck, and cycling the deck is quite tight. And when you commit forces to a battlefield, whether you win or lose, those forces are like removed from the game. They had some really bad terminology for it at UKG, and we actually called them out on it. We're like, you cannot use this term to refer to that. I think they used the term trash to put something in the discard, and we're like, no, that's not
right. No, you can't do that.
It was something like that. So we're like, but anyway, what I'll tell you what it was. Cycle was go in the discard, and discard was removed from the game. And we're like, you cannot refer to remove from the game.
That's going to grate me. I play a lot of deck builders. That's going to grate.
Yeah. And so we're like, please change that. So I don't know if they have, but in any case, we played through it. We had a great time, and you've got these really difficult decisions. Do you commit forces to the battlefield? Are you going to be able to win it? You can sort of ready forces up by playing them out in front of you, and then maybe commit them and maybe not commit them. So you're kind of keeping an eye on what everyone else has in front of them. And there's two kind of mechanisms going on as well, where you've got the sort of the straight up forces, but you've got these card combinations and stuff that can undermine the sort of determinism. So it's really neat. And I'm definitely keen to get a copy and play it more.
Yeah, I love Lord of the Rings, so this is definitely high up there. I'm curious, because I've got the War of the Ring board game downstairs. I've played it once.
I played it once as well, yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but man, there's a ton of rules, and I doubt I'll ever get it to the table again, because it's pretty much 2-player only with a ton of rules. So it's probably one that needs to be sold. This card game gets me interested, though, if it can take that theme, make it shorter, more easier to learn, and still give me the same feeling. And you mentioned that it's because I thought this was just going to be one-on-one, like pretty much War of the Ring was, but this apparently can be 2 against 2.
So just to jump in, I've played War of the Ring like 4 or 5 times. I have War of the Ring 2nd edition. I really like it. It is very heavy. It can also be very, very long. And it also has some swingy moments that can just completely upset it at the end. And people get angry when that happens. So it's a hugely thematic game that can be quite unfair based on how much effort you've put into it. If you're not sort of bought into the theme. This feels like mechanically absolutely nothing to do with that. I think the War of the Ring name is entirely
marketing.
So basically, Lord of the Rings, the card game by Ares, as opposed, they just couldn't make it Lord of the Rings.
I mean, really, it's Quartermaster. It's Quartermaster General Middle Earth, I think. Right, but I don't know how much Quartermaster General.
I would play that. Similar. I would play Quartermaster General Middle Earth if they did.
I mean, my understanding is that Quartermaster General has an actual board and stuff, so I don't know how much again that it has in common with that. I think they started there, and then Ian reiterated it away from that concept. But it does kind of have a board in the sense that it has this track of battlefields that come out.
I mean that's slightly different. The thing with Quartermaster General was that everybody was asymmetrical. They started differently. They played slightly differently, and they had to manage their deck of cards because it was effectively almost like a resource for the whole game that they couldn't just squander early.
So that is definitely a core thing that they've kept for this. The decks of cards in this very much feel like a finite resource, and you have to choose when to spend your cards because then they get discarded out of the game. And so if you didn't sort of pick key moments to use them or read what your opponents are doing correctly, then you're going to be left without these resources for later, and that's how you're going to lose. Eventually, you're going to get whittled down to where you just can't get back into it. It does look like the decks are very, very asymmetrical. All the cards in each deck are different. And there are certain mechanisms that sort of unite them as well, commonalities it's not like you're, a root or whatever, where everything's like very, very different.
Okay.
So
if anything, that's made it go higher. So
but I think it's designed for 2v2. I think it will have a variant for 1v1 where you just shuffle the decks together. I don't know. They were talking about that at the UKG, but I don't. Yeah, it's definitely not 1v1 ideally.
Right. I mean, Ricky Royal covered this on the channel when he had a demo copy of it, and he actually contacted me and said, "Paul, I think you're going to really like this game because you like Lord of the Rings," and he was happy to send his prototype copy on to me, but I didn't have time to cover it. I have reached out to Ares. I've not heard back from them yet. But yeah, the Lord of the Rings theme and the fact that Ricky said that I would probably like this, I was like, yeah, okay, definitely need to have a look at this one. So yeah, I'll get another contact for them and check. Right, Luke, have you got one more?
Sort of, because the last two was literally my emergency ones, and they just got nicked. But now there's a couple. I mean, I'm not going to do the Spirit Island one because I think that's just too cliche. Because everybody knows that. Like I said, it's a simpler version of it. I'm going to get it, play it, talk.
Yeah, more Spirit.
We'll cover it. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the main reason. We'll go stupidly light though, because I didn't have this on the original hit list, but then I watched the Dice Tower playthrough of it, and I thought this sounds so zany and crazy that I thought I got to give this a shot. Yellow Games have got a big box sequel for King of Tokyo, King of Monster Island. And I rolled my eyes at first when I heard that name until I watched the playthrough, and it's like, okay, so this is effectively a co-op King of Tokyo.
Yeah,
zany monsters, all the usual like cliches, all the from Japanese movies and stuff. You could ham it up, but everybody kind of working together with the similar mechanics from King of Tokyo, with the dice and the power-up cards and stuff, beating one bigger monster around a volcano. And it's like, okay, you know what? I like King of Tokyo. I've still got it on my shelf and bring it out quite often for a bit of a laugh. I'll take this one, actually, especially if you give me a co-op film. It could be something I prefer to the original King of Tokyo if they pull it off.
I think, I found out about this one this morning, and it just looks fun. It looks like something you can chuck on the table, have a great time playing for about an hour, and and play it with friends, or with it being co-op, obviously it's soloable as well. But just checking out the price as well, and an online retail, £38.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
the MSRP is 55, but online you can get it for about £38, and anywhere between 38 and 44. So pretty decent price for it. Has it got like a plastic volcano in the middle of the island?
It's got a structure volcano, and it's got the standees for the monsters, your bag, tokens, cards, and that. I mean, and the the boards with the health dials and stuff. It looks like there's a different array of monsters in a sense, because I don't recognize the portraits they got there. I'll be a bit sad if Gigazord doesn't feature, but. You know what? To be fair, War of the Ring and Heat were higher, but in absence of those, I'll certainly.
It is designed by Richard Garfield as well, so pedigree.
Yeah. Well, it's King of Tokyo. I mean, regardless of that, but then doesn't the thing is, didn't Richard Garfield? Yeah, because he also did Magic but then he also did that. Was it Soulforge I did recently, which I wasn't a fan of. But
he did Soulforge years ago.
Well,
but come on, guys, he did Netrunner.
He did Netrunner,
which was really good. As I say, he's very high or very low. He's one of the two. But King of Tokyo is a great bit of fun, and honestly, I'll because this will be a spectacle on the table. I guarantee it will turn heads if somebody walks by and sees it. I'll get some zany fun out of it, I reckon, especially for that price.
Anybody else looking to pick this one up?
Maybe. It depends. It's like potentially, but if I've got other stuff and the weight limit is going to be too restrictive, then this one will be one that I'll just pick up at another point. Certainly at £38, I don't feel any rush to buy it, because it will be available at retail afterwards. Obviously, yeah. So yeah, I'll probably pick up something else in lieu of this, but it looks fun. I will pick it up at some point. Yeah.
Right. Mike?
Oh, it's apparently a dice tower, according to someone in chat.
All right. Okay.
Big volcano dice tower. Yeah, I think that is that. Yeah, because it looks like you put dice in the middle and it comes out. I guess that must be for the big baddie you're fighting. So almost a bit like a sort of Fireball Island. And actually, no. What's that? That horrible. What's that weird 21 loop? Yeah, it looks a bit like that middle tower where you put stuff in the middle and it goes into the various sections and does bad stuff to whatever monster happens to be in that section. But yeah, just the idea of like Godzilla sort of teaming up with King Kong and a few other people. I mean, yeah, to be honest, it's that movie all over again.
Okay, Mike, is this on your list at all?
Alternative to to Return to Dark Tower. Yeah.
A very analog version, or a low-tech version, should I say? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like King of Tokyo. It's always a fun laugh, and this kind of fits in with that. It reminds me sort of what I like about these kinds of games is they kind of remind me of just sort of the joy of board gaming, in a very sort of fundamental way. They're always just a good laugh, and you don't take them too seriously, and you have a good time and they're fun. So I think this probably would scratch that itch, and I certainly don't have anything like that in my catalog now. So if I get a chance, I mean, I don't have anything like that on my list at the moment. So if I get a chance to check this out, I'll definitely swing by and take a look.
But if I grab it, we could easily squeeze it in on the night. That's it. We can plug this alongside Heat.
Famous. That's what she. Oh man, and so many puns about what you just said, Luke. Anyway.
Yeah, moving swiftly on before we get Paul demonetized.
I'll be honest.
Why must I do this for children?
Yeah, I'll be honest. This game is nowhere near my radar, and I played King of Tokyo once and didn't enjoy it. So I'm in the minority here. But
I'd have been shell shocked if you said you were looking forward to this. This is like
this is not one that I would be interested in. And again, nothing against the designer or the publisher, and everybody else thinks it's going to be fun to play.
You made Godzilla sad.
Yeah, I'll have my fun by pushing little wooden cubes up some tracks and scoring icons. That's what I'll do. Right.
Yeah, if it's not rolling dice like Tillitum, then we don't want to hear about it.
No, dice, not cubes, Paul. I'm sorry. And you don't get to place the dice on squares. It's like
you're telling me I don't get to take resources when I take this die?
No. And nothing on that board is beige.
I'm going to go back to the hotness list again, and we're going to have a go down. So we've got Hamlet. We've covered that with Lacrimosa. Red Cathedral Contractors. It's an expansion, so it's not going to get as talked about as new games. But Red Cathedral from Devere was a fantastic game, really, really good, and the Contractors just makes it better. So yeah, so that's one. I've already got a copy of that. It's up there. I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I did enjoy Red Cathedral.
Red Cathedral is such a solid game.
The AP issue is what made me sell it in the end, but I did like it.
Yeah. Woodcraft, the new game from Vladimir Suhi, co-designed with Ross Arnold, who's one of my Patreon supporters and might be in the chat. I don't know. But I've covered Woodcraft on the channel. I got not an advanced copy, a prototype of it. So it's been covered on the channel. I'll be picking up my final copy. Although this is a co-design.
I saw in the
Jeremy was not a fan.
He wasn't a fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is a co-design. Now his last one, Messina 1347, was also a co-design, but part of me thinks you wouldn't know it's a co-design if Ross wasn't involved in this and you played the game. It's like, oh yeah, this is a Vladimir Suhi game. You can kind of see that in the DNA of it. But yeah, I've played it.
Ross
covered
is here.
Covered it on the channel. Ross is here. There you go.
A lot of people talking about Woodcraft though. If you go on BGG, it's generating quite a bit of interest. And again, I can see this and Lacrimosa being kind of the two popular games of Essen from what I've read about. So I mean, check it out. Yeah.
I mean, it's still that sort of quintessential like get resources and do stuff. But the idea of doing like a lumber mill effectively is different. It is something unusual. Yeah. But certainly, I think the combination of Suhi plus Delicious Games is also a factor in to why it's getting hyped. Because to be fair, I wasn't necessarily a fan of Suhi Games early on, like up to about Shipyard or something like that. But then he did Underwater Cities.
Yeah, which was his first game with Delicious Games. Yeah,
I would say Underwater Cities I love. Praga I liked fine. He also did with Czech Games Polestar 2849, which was a massive unexpected hit for me.
Yeah.
So it's like now his recent stuff is getting me more interested. So Woodcraft is not top 10, but it's definitely up there with like, oh yeah, I want to give this one a look.
Yeah, the action selections mechanism in the middle of the board is great. One of the concepts in the game, if we talk about thematic rules, is that you have dice that represent lumber, and one of the actions you can do in the game is you can cut a piece of lumber. Yeah. So if you have a dice that's a 5, you can cut it into a 2 and a 3, which sounds obvious, but you're actually cutting a piece of wood and you need a saw to do that. And you can also glue bits of wood together, and you can get scrap wood to sort of merge it in and increase. And essentially it's dice manipulation. So you have your lumber and then you manipulate the numbers on the dice to try and fulfill effectively contracts, which is building stuff.
There was thematic dice manipulation. That's what caught my eye about it first. I thought, okay, that's clever.
So it plays quite nicely. There's a solo mode which I've not tried out yet. But yeah, so Woodcraft, again, based on the pedigree of the Suhi name, Delicious Games, that's already got it quite high on people's list. As I say, we've had when he was with the Delicious Games, Underwater City, Praga Caput Regni, Messina 1347, and this is the next one. So it's a little bit like Starship Captains with CGE. Yeah? If Peter, who designed Starship Captains, would have had that game published by another publisher who wasn't as big as CGE, still riding high on the Lost Ruins of Arnak and games like that, then it wouldn't be on people's radar as much. So yeah, so that's a good
one. We keep mentioning Suki, but let's remember that he's not in the chat and Ross is in the chat.
Ross is in the chat.
Yes. So congratulations, Ross. Looks like you've got a winner on your hands here.
Definitely.
We were talking. Is it Ross? Is it Ross's first design?
I think so. I think it is. And that's the thing. It's Peter's first design as well. So if you're a first-time designer and you get your game picked up by either Delicious Games, the co-designer with Vladimir Suhi, or published by CGE, that's a win. If I ever designed a game, it'd be published by some small publisher in Hall 13 with a tiny little booth.
This could be the year of first-time designers, which would make a change, to be honest.
Could be.
But going by Ross's look, if he could just put tonight's lottery tickets in the chat, lottery numbers in the chat, please, mate, that would be great as well. Yes.
But also,
there's always an ulterior motive.
We all want to know, Ross, whose idea was the innovative log cutting mechanic?
Because that doesn't sound like a Suhi mechanic.
Was that you, Ross? Did you invent the dice cutting? Because that's what we want to know.
Say it is.
I'll bet Suhi said yes. We got to manipulate dice and do all this mechanical stuff, and then Ross said, "But what if we made it thematic?"
Possibly. I'm just going down the list here. Great Western Trail Argentina, Luke's number one game on the list, but we lost his connection when he talked about it. So
Ninja Cows in Argentina, whatever. It's like
it's interesting that none of us have talked about that. Because Great Western Trail, despite Luke's dislike for it, is a massively popular game. And the Argentina version is a new, exciting set of tweaks to bring.
I was going to ask you, Paul, if you know what they've sort of done with this.
I know a little bit, but not enough to really talk about. I had a quick look at it. I've got a copy down there. I was going to try and cover it on the channel, and in fact, my Patreon supporters voted on what we were going to cover this week, and it was either going to be Great Western Trail Argentina or Lacrimosa, and Lacrimosa won 60% to 40%. So that's why we covered Lacrimosa.
I mean, from what I've heard, this one sounds a bit like what Birmingham was to Brass, where Birmingham is basically just Lancashire with extra bits. This one is essentially Great Western Trail with
extra bits.
Yes, it's like this is not a completely different game. I mean, you look at the board and it looks 95% identical. Yeah. It's just the fact that so Birmingham brought in beer and some other tweak. Well, this one's going to bring in a couple of other tweaks as well. So it's definitely for fans of the game, not for newcomers, I'd say.
Yeah, mechanically, Mike, one of the things that I can tell you is, as you deliver the cows and you move your train along the track, what that does is it means that you, when your little cowboy moves, you don't have to move as far. So there are break-off points. So if you've moved your train like 5 or 6 spaces along the track, then when you're moving your cowboy up, you don't have to go as far as the city, whatever the city is, Buenos Aires, I think, where you're delivering them. Yeah. You can actually come off a little bit earlier. And the further you've advanced your train around, you can make shorter routes. So that's a new thing that they've introduced in there.
To be honest, I was kind of hoping this year it was a bit more significant. I've still got my.
There's other bits as well. That's just the one that I know.
Rails, but
yeah.
Yeah. Fister Games are hit and miss for me. I didn't like Boone Lake from last year. It was again a bit of a blind purchase last year.
Yeah, very
loved that.
Yeah, that was underwhelming. Whereas I got Great Western Trail, the second edition of Great Western Trail, and I'd never played the original, and I thought the second edition was great. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
And it's got a solo mode.
Check out Argentina for sure. I actually don't have the second edition of Great Western Trail. I've only got my original, so
I will say,
be keen to take a look.
Yeah, just one thing, BGG. I do not want to see this alongside Great Western Trail in the top 100, please. Okay, combine the rankings, not separate.
You're going to. Revive, we've talked about. Starship Captains, we've talked about. So Tillitum, we talked about just before the show started. This is a new game from Board and Dice, but a lot of us have got copies slightly before Essen, but I'm classing this as an Essen release. And this is a T game designed by Daniele Tascini, co-designed with Simone Luciani that have done a couple of games before, published by Board and Dice. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about the games from Board and Dice in the last couple of years is that the complexity has gone down. I felt that the T games were all getting, for me, a bit too complicated. Tekenu, great game.
Yeah.
But Tekenu took 45 minutes to teach. We've lost Mike. I don't know why we've lost Mike.
I'm still here.
He's still here.
Seems to have gone.
Okay. And I spoke to them after that, and I said, look, Tekenu's a great game. I says, but, and then there's an expansion for it, and oh, wow, and there's other stuff. And they went, yeah, we think we're going a bit too far. We're going to sort of rein back the complexity. So Tillitum, we played it. It's on the channel now. We did a playthrough of it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. One concern I had is that people said, oh, I think Luke, you mentioned this. Oh, you get chaining actions. And I'm not normally a big fan of actions where one action chains to another, which then chains to another, because I lose track of where I am. I didn't have that problem with Tillitum. And I'm somebody who suffers from chaining action, losing track of where I am syndrome.
The chaining action is actually one of the better parts. I mean, I reviewed it and sort of gave it above average as like the final rating of it, because there's some bits, the chaining part I like. Your turns do feel meaningful, and providing you don't do the king action, which is a waste of space, because it's like, it feels like they had four really good actions, and then they said, oh, we just need to put a track in there somewhere, because your turn can be like 5 minutes long with a normal action and 5 seconds with the king one.
The king action is very simple, yeah.
But the chaining actions is good for you. It's not for everybody else around the table, because the downtime while you're doing this turn, that seems to take forever. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh yeah, I've got this token that gives me another action of 4 action points worth. You can just hear the sighs around the table as they're waiting for you to finish. So it kind of like outstays its welcome a little bit.
Hey, Mike's back.
This is a backup camera.
Backup camera.
More of the collection, less of.
So yeah, so that's
yeah, exactly. Here you can see what a big Star Trek fan I am.
There you go.
Yep.
Right. So did anybody put anything in the chat that they want us to talk about?
One thing I'd be curious if anybody else knows anymore. Going back to Uri Rosenberg.
Yeah.
One of the best board game covers I've seen in a while. There is a game called Applejack. Is this coming out to Essen, or is this afterwards? I don't know. But it's another tile placement game, which makes me think, oh, this is just another one of those tile games that Uri does. But I don't think it's about cider. It's just apple farming in general. But I don't even know this publisher, the Game Builders.
Nope, never heard of them.
Complete unknown. So I know pretty much nothing about this game. I just see it's Uri Rosenberg, and it has one of my favorite board game covers this year. And I'm like, okay. Because I'd have that art on my wall. It looks that nice.
Know very, very little about this.
But has anybody in the chat got any knowledge of this? Because
I thought I did look at this very briefly. I think it might just be a German edition coming out, but also it looks like it's language independent. So
okay,
possibly if you can get an English rule book, it won't matter. Sometimes they even have English rule books to come out. But yeah, it looks like I thought I might be interested in checking this out. I generally haven't really got on with Uwe's lighter games. I thought Raycult was rather underwhelming, and I really wasn't a fan of New York Zoo either. So I don't know how I'll feel.
I didn't like New York Zoo. I liked Raycult fine. I did get rid of it eventually, but it was one of the. It didn't have enough replay value to stay in the collection, but I did like it for the times I had it.
Just on another point there, I don't know, actually, are we done on Applejack or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's available or not, but apart from maybe the German copy. So.
Well, I'll tell you what is available, and chat's asking about is Terracotta Army.
Which I've just put on here. Yeah, so I've got a copy of that. Luke's got a copy of that.
Wasn't that well, it came out at Gen Con, I know that, but maybe it
had so it's recent-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, so not
you weren't blown away, were you, Luke?
Sorry?
You weren't blown away with this one, were you?
I actually like this slightly less than Tile Time. The concept is, I mean, there's no theme in it whatsoever. It's the puzzle of where you put those miniatures on the grid and scoring points, and that bit's fine. The two biggest issues, production quality is not great either, but the two things is that action wheel is an AP generating machine, because you've got 12 got 12 segments to pick from. You cannot plan your turn ahead though, because all it takes is for one person to go on the segment, and there's a good chance you won't be able to take it yourself. But you can also pay money to twist 2 elements of the wheel in advance, so somebody can completely mess up your plan either by taking the segment or by simply turning the wheel once, at which point you then have to rethink your turn, which causes the game to drag on. It also becomes impossible to see what you're doing scoring wise, because you have to stop and start interim scoring after every round. That's fine when there's only 2 of you, and you can easily see what models are on that grid. When you've got 4 people's worth of mixture of models on that grid, with all the little ones that are kneeling down, it becomes a cacophony of chaos trying to do it. So it's like a really cool car that screeches to a halt every 5 seconds because you've got to do the scoring bit. Then you get on with some cool puzzling. Then you got to stop again, and then it carries on like that. I mean, I played it with like the same group who loves a lot of these dry beige Euro games and that, and even they weren't massive fans of it once we were finished.
Yeah, I actually played it at 2, and it went along at a fairly clip pace, and we had a fairly good time. But I think I've just published a review about 10 minutes ago on my channel. Where we basically said we're very worried that at higher player counts this is going to be you're going to have not enough to do, or it's going to take too long. And,
I laugh because Aiden's in the chat saying Luke doesn't have a copy now because he has both my copies of Tillitum, because I gave them to him.
Is that return for Solosphere? Is it then? Is that what that is? Yeah.
He is actually sending me that one. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So, what about Flower? Because that seems to be getting
I don't know anything about this at all.
It looks nice. I just don't know enough information. But
yeah, it's got the weird player boards, hasn't it, and what have you, and like a petal-shaped flavor. Are you like a flower seller or something like that, or a trader?
Yeah. I think it's more a flower fair or something, isn't it?
Fair, is it? Is that what it is? Yeah.
A festival that commemorates the anniversary of the end of the 200 Years' War. I don't know if that's a real thing or fictitious, but I'm not a historian. But
they look like prototypes, pictures those, Paul. I think
there we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's it. Yeah.
But I don't know enough about it. But it said 60 to 90 minutes wait free, which is heavier than I would have expected. I don't recognize designer or even the publisher, so I think that's why it hasn't been looked at more, but it looks pretty as all get out.
It does. I mean, that's the thing. We've covered a lot of games today because known publishers, known designers, or whatever. Absolutely. This might be the under the radar hit from Essen.
Yeah.
This might be an amazing game that's absolutely fantastic, but never heard of the publisher, never heard of the designers. Yeah. Apologies if they're in the chat. But it's quite high on the list. So I think I need to add this one to my list of games to look at.
Blower was renamed. Previous name was Aalsmeer, Dutch city renowned for flower trade.
Okay, but yeah, that looks nice. And I'm just looking at the image, and I'm looking at the amount of icons on the board, and I'm getting just a sort of
a warm glow,
and a warm glow, but also that definitely isn't a light game. You know, there's stuff going on, but it looks visually really nice. So
it does,
yeah.
I mean, if these super untrustworthy BGG ratings can be trusted, this is the same way as Atiwa.
Yeah, but if you look at that, Atiwa only had like 4 ratings. One was a 1, one was a 5, and 2 were a 3.
Yeah, so bear in mind that rate rating only needs one person to give it a stat. That's why you don't trust it.
Yeah, and that's it. There you go. One person has rated this weight 3. So we can ignore the weight ratings for now.
Yes,
but
we can just assume that was an expert who designed it. Probably.
Yeah, but board gamers are notorious for skewing these weight ratings. It's like anything less than Twilight Imperium is a kid's game for some people.
According to chat, this is the same designer as Red Cathedral.
Oh,
okay.
Well, in which case, I've just embarrassed myself by saying I don't know the designer. Oh, wait a minute.
It's also just gone up on this list.
I really hope they're not in the chat. Because they've sent me a couple of messages and said, "Oh, Paul, we're really happy that you like the Red Cathedral." So, okay, I did say I was going to have a look at this game because it's unknown if this is the same designers as Red Cathedral. Yes,
it is. Yeah, I've just
checked, apologies for not recognizing your name when they watch this video back. Yeah. Okay.
Chat's also mentioned Autobahn, the Alley Cats game's probably heaviest Euro to date. I'd done a preview of that already last year, which, as at the time, I thought it was pretty decent overall. One or two aspects are kind of like, yeah, all right, but I like the action section here. But that one seems like a kind of mixture of like card action management that you can upgrade for bits and bobs. It's route, it's pick up and deliver because you can go get goods and transport them on the network, but then you can also build up things like petrol pumps and bits everywhere so that if other people use them, you get a benefit. But that one I'm keen to at least try the final copy of, and it's definitely, I think, the heaviest thing that Alley Cats put out, but it would still be midweight. You know, we're not talking heavy.
You're on their list, aren't you, Luke? So you'll probably be getting a final copy of that.
Probably yes.
Yes. Some of us are no longer on their list. So what else have we got? We have. I'm just going down the list now. What time do you have to disappear, Mark?
I'm okay for a while yet.
Okay,
so,
right.
yeah.
I'm just going down the preview list. The next one is a game called Among Cultists from Godot Games. Anybody looked at this at all?
I was. I got
6?
turned off this because of that name, because I thought, are you just trying to like hang on Among Us?
It is a Cthulhu themed game.
Yeah. I mean, it's a social deduction experience. We've seen 100 of these. It's Cthulhu again. I like Cthulhu, but again, we've seen it, and I just worry that they're borrowing heavily from I mean, it does say inspired by Among Us, so it's like, okay, fair enough. That is a really cool.
So that's probably why it's high on the list. It's inspired by Among Us. It's Cthulhu themed. It's a 4 to 8 player social deduction game. So this is not on my list at all. I will be avoiding this one like the plague because it's social deduction.
Yeah.
Well, so Stefan Gatto, sorry,
yeah,
Luke. I was going to say the designer is the designer of Human Punishment, which
come out recently, but I know nothing about Human Punishment either.
It's a social deduction cyberpunk game, and the thing is, it's kind of really, if you're into social deduction, it's kind of really hard at the moment not to compare everything to Blood on the Clock Tower,
right?
Which is excellent and probably the best in genre. So it's going to be, it's kind of like also tough to, I mean, Among Us, which this is drawn inspiration from, we played a bunch of that Among Us with board gamers live streams during the pandemic, and I really like Among Us, but as far as social deduction goes, it's very goofy. I think that's why it was so accessible, because and a lot of what it does couldn't really be implemented effectively in a board game, or it not in the same way. Among Us relies very much on real-time sort of action and real-time game elements.
Like I said, could be. I mean, the cover looks like the cover puts me off as well, because it just basically looks like a CW did Cthulhu. Then that's what it would be.
Yeah, that's not.
I mean,
it's all like the point of entry to this will obviously be way lower than say Blood, right? Because Blood is hugely expensive to buy, requires a massive group and an expert to run the game. I mean, having said that,
totally accessible. Yeah,
totally accessible. Well, having said that, I've run Blood on the Clock Tower and I've not played it that much. So
has it changed in the last year and a half?
No, not really.
No. Oh, right.
It's been delivered. That's about the only change. Is it eventually got delivered?
I remember that I got shown it at a UK Games Expo like ages ago. I can't remember how many years back it was or something, and I just went, nah. But then since then, I have no idea if it's changed. But then everybody started playing it at conventions and going mad over it, and I just wondered, did I miss something in my first play? But
the other 2 scripts for Blood might have changed over the last few years as they've been refined, I think. But I don't think the Trouble Brewing, which is the main game, has changed.
Oh, it was like I'm playing One Night Werewolf, except I need a moderator and a giant book. Is that okay?
I think that's a bit reductive. It's one of the great things about Blood is that it's not got player elimination.
Yes.
Although One Night Ultimate Werewolf doesn't really have that either, I suppose. But obviously, Blood's a more longer and more evolved thing. This I don't know much about.
No. Moving down the list,
I think also, go on. Just quickly, Blood will be on sale at Essen, I think.
Right, okay.
People are interested in it.
Right. Moving down the list, Sabika, which I've covered on the channel. I covered this because this is the same designer as Bitoku. So he's done his game this year, Sabika, which is about the construction of the Alhambra. That's with Ludonova. So I've already got a copy of that. I've already covered it on the channel. I can't remember how many people played it now. Have I covered it on the channel? Yes, I know I did a Patreon only playthrough. I can't remember if I actually did a public playthrough of it on the channel.
I can't remember if it was probably on Patreon, but yeah, you definitely did a playthrough of it.
I've done so many in the last few weeks, I've lost track. But anyway, it's a solid game. It's not as complex as Bitoku. I enjoyed
exactly it. A hard bar.
No. But it's by the same designer, so you think, oh, okay, is it going to be another one? Now, some people who watched the video made a very good point about it. I played the game. I enjoyed the game. I thought mechanically it was very good. I thought the decision space was very good, and I enjoyed the game. But then a few people who watched the video afterwards said, yeah, but is it special? Because what they saw us playing the game and they saw us enjoying the game, and it was a good game, But these days, is a good game good enough? And that's the thing. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'd play it again.
It gives me vibes of Merv, and I thoroughly enjoyed Merv, but it had anything different enough to actually stand out from the crowd, basically. Yeah,
right.
It had that Merv feeling, and I mean that one was fine. I think I got rid of it eventually. The cover of this does not sell it. Like I wouldn't look at this twice if I saw that cover on a shelf.
That sells it to me.
Yeah.
But then the board itself, lots of brown everywhere, so it's not looking at I think it was hard to say. It was that kind of thing. It's like, okay, this looks okay, but what's the unique selling point of it? And it's not the free rondelles because Shipyard did that.
Yeah. Okay.
In the photo, it looks like some of these poor meeples have died.
They lay down when they've done their work. Yeah.
Because you're going to death.
Next on the list is Flamecraft from Lucky Duck Games, which I'm hoping to pick up a copy of this because I've been friends with
that.
You've got it. Nice.
I've got a review copy from Lucky Duck.
Yeah. No, I've been the new marketing guy in America. I've been friends with him for years. So I dropped him a message and said, "All right, now that you're sort of in charge of marketing for Lucky Duck Games, any chance of any review copies?"
Yeah. They send out an email saying like fill out a form. Haven't seen anything since. So.
I've not had that, but no,
they thought Luke will rate it low. We won't send it to me. So
everything I've heard about this looks really good, but I don't know anything about it myself.
It does look good. It does look gorgeous. I just don't know gameplay wise if I love it or not.
Mike, have you had a chance to play it?
No, I haven't actually had a chance to play it, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's fantastic artwork on there, and I think the Kickstarter came with some dragon plushes as well that you could have for it. So I know the Kickstarter got delivered around about July time-ish.
Okay.
So the retail version is significantly less lush than the deluxe version.
Yeah,
and it doesn't come with the plushy dragons, but it looks, the art's gorgeous. It's very twee. It looks really pleasing. The concept is that you're playing as, I mean, I don't know if you play as them, but it's these artisanal dragons using their fire breath to make things, and people are wandering up and down the sort of the retail street trying to purchase browsing wares, and you're trying to sell your wares with some card management systems, and it just looks really twee and cute.
Yeah.
I think this would be a sort of easy sell to people. People would look at it.
Okay.
It's got that look and theme that certainly appeals. Although if I see it, it will definitely be the retail version. So
I mean, it's 1 to 5 players. Plays in 60 minutes, €35. So we're not talking a massive box expensive game here. So, okay, I'll take a look at that. Speaking of massive box expensive games, Endless Winter is next. Now, I'm not sure if Endless Winter is going to be available for purchase at Essen.
It was.
If it is, then I'm surprised that's not higher.
The thing is, it's being talked about a lot already. People have seen videos of it. Some people have even had copies of it, like played it in a sense. So perhaps that buzz is just sort of like waning in favor of other stuff that's like, oh yeah, new, you know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But if you want to know anything about Endless Winter, check out my channel. I've done 97,452 videos for it.
Just a few.
Yeah, I've done 6 videos on the game covering the base game, all of the expansions and everything else.
I feel like I could review the base already just because we played it so much at Manicon or something.
We did.
I remember I played it twice in a row because I was enjoying what I was getting from it, and I taught it to 2 new people a second time straight after the other game because you were tired.
That was it. To be fair, I hadn't slept in 4 days. Like 0 sleep in 4 days. So yeah, I wasn't just tired. Autobahn we've mentioned, Tribes of the Wind we've mentioned. Voidfall we're not going to mention because it's not available at Essen, even though it will be there for demo. Unconscious Mind, again, the new game from Fantasia Games, not going to be available.
This would have been on my list if it was available.
Yeah. I will be bringing a good copy with me to Essen.
Ooh.
I have 2 copies of this game.
I say it's concept art and waiting at this was high. Yeah.
So Fantasia Games, I'm going to be covering this on the channel after Essen. So Fantasia Games sent me 2 copies. One was for me, one was for another content creator that's in the UK. It turns out that other content creator is not in the UK. So I'm basically taking that second copy back to Essen for them to then send it on to somebody else. There was a misunderstanding of the place name.
If only you knew a select group of well-reputed UK content creators.
Yeah,
I just like give it to. I mean,
yeah, unfortunately I don't. So I'm giving it back to the publisher. Turing Machine is next, that I've heard all sorts of good things about, but I know almost nothing about it other than it's supposed to be really good.
A good logic deduction puzzle game by the sound of it, but what it does worry me with is that this sounds like a solo game only, despite having one. It sounds like it's one of those deduction games where it's race to who figures it out first.
Okay.
So the puzzle's great, but then why do I need the other 2-3 players there?
Right. They're like endless permutations on the puzzles almost as well. There's like 32,000 or whatever you can do. So it's like, endlessly replayable, I believe, in one way or another. All the early reports from people that played it at Gen Con seem to really like Turing Machine. So I think this again is what I'm going to be picking up.
Yeah, I saw lots of other content creators have done videos on it, so I'm gonna drop them a message and see if they're interested in a review copy of that. But yeah, that looks good. 1998.
Could it replace Wordle for Mark?
1998 ISS. Why are you not discussing this with Luke?
For all I know, the game could be great, but that cover, man, and that title, does anybody look at that and go, "Ooh, this looks exciting"?
Well, it's because Looping Games produce. They've got a whole series of games. They're all in the same size box. They've all got a year, and they've all got a title. So that's why it's following that same theme.
Evolve. I mean,
it's the same designer as Lacrimosa. Remember that,
right? Oh, same two designers as Lacrimosa. Yes.
No one's talking about this one. They're all talking about Lacrimosa. That's
I've played a couple of their games and I've really enjoyed them. So, yeah.
The picture of it, I think I can't tell if that's prototype or not, but
yeah, that's 3D rendered. But no, as I say, small box games, all got a year, all got a small title, and the ones I've played have been really good. Europa Universalis.
So this is demo only, Paul.
It is demo only. So
I'm keen to look at it. See where they go.
I'm keen to look at it. They want me to cover it on the channel, and I looked at the rulebook, and I'm like, this will take me a week to learn. This is an absolutely epic, massive game that is very niche. And is probably amazing for those people who have all day to sit down and play this epic war game with a massive rulebook. Unfortunately, I'm not in that anymore.
I mean, it looks like it will take a week to play as well, because the play time is 90 to 300 minutes.
Yeah, but 300 minutes is only 5 hours, Luke.
Only 5.
That's 5.
That's the
come on.
I mean, playtime 90 to 300 minutes. You might as well just put not applicable or any in there with that kind of range.
Yeah, I mean that's a long game, but
yeah. It's very expensive as well, isn't it? About £300 for the
it's
game.
Massive. Yeah, I mean if you look at the pictures of it, it's just
Paul.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, £300 for a 5-hour game. That's super niche. Like,
which means you're getting it, right?
No, like I definitely don't have budget for that. But if they sent it to me, I'd play it.
Yeah, it's 100%.
I have a group for that.
Yeah, it's a first time publisher as well, which is the slow way, because you wonder if it's like maybe overreaching too far for your first game. But if this has the who are they called, Paradox Interactive's backing, then that has to speak some volumes, because they've already given Academy Games Stellaris, who I'm confident can do a pretty good job with that.
Right.
There was a Crusader Kings game a while back, which I don't think was regarded that highly. I think it was just kind of meh and disappeared. This is another Paradox Interactive, ridiculously complicated strategy game, because all their games are like that. But blimey, this is a venture to take for your first game.
It is.
It is based off a PC game, isn't it?
It's based off a computer game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Paradox Interactive do nothing. They basically have about 5 or 6 very popular, crazy complicated strategy games.
Massively crazy complicated strategy games.
Just macro management.
Yeah.
Hyper macro management.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I've had some emails with them. As I say, they wanted me to cover it on the channel. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to see the game and I'm going to look at it. And 25 years ago, when I'd spend all day playing Axis and Allies, this is a game which I'd love. The idea of me spending a month to learn how to play a game. I mean, I'm exaggerating. But putting that much time and effort in to play it, and then playing it all day, I'd love that. But now life's changed, life's different, and I'm covering 100 games a week. It's not. I can't do that now. Deal with Devil.
If you guys send me a copy, I'll do it.
Okay, you do it. In fact, I'll tell you what.
Go on, Mike.
Yeah,
but I want to talk about Resist. Actually,
talk about Resist. Yes. I mean, it's Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson and Roger Tankersley. So I don't have a copy of this, and I don't know why David Thompson, because I'm friends with him, has not said, Paul, would you like a copy of Resist?
I've got no idea what this game is. Although as soon as I saw that cover, the first name that popped to mind was Grizzled.
So I backed this on Kickstarter, not so much because of the pedigree of the designers. Obviously, they're the designers of Sniper Elite.
Right.
David Thompson is possibly best known as well for his solo designs on the Valiant Defense series, which I know you like, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried
and Undaunted,
Pavlov's House, which I was quite keen on. Yeah, but I mean, so the reason I bring up Valiant Defense is specifically because Resist is solo only, Mark.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a multiplayer game like Undaunted, and so Resist is not in the Valiant Defense series, and it's much lighter than that. Mm-hmm. But what this is modeling is actually the Marquis, who were the resistance fighters during the reign of Franco, who was the dictator that ruled over Spain in the aftermath of World War II, and this game I backed on Kickstarter basically right away because that was something that was really important to my late father. Actually, he was sort of an expert on this period in history and an academic who worked with the cultural exiles of Spain under the reign of Franco. So Franco, much like many dictators, took all of the sort of the cultural output of the country, and anyone who was putting out stuff that was undermining his regime, he exiled them all.
Right.
And sent them away, or they had to flee the country because they were in danger of physical harm. So my dad worked with a lot of them and supported them, and so this conflict was something that I sort of grew up with some knowledge of.
Right.
And this is a really interesting game, and what it's got is this sort of like heartbreaking mechanism where effectively you're playing out this hand of cards which represent all the characters in the Marquis Freedom Fighters. And you can play them for sort of a minor power where they're sort of like doing this guerrilla warfare, or you can reveal the card and play it for its major power, but then they die because they've been revealed and they're killed. And
I wondered where you were going with the heartbreaking part. It was
are they all personalized? The cards of the characters all got names, etc. So you're attaching an emotion to them there. Yeah.
Possibly based on historical figures. I don't know, but
it definitely does sound a bit like the Grizzled. It's definitely got that sort of like this is a particular period of war that they're trying to pay respect to in a card game.
So from I've not played any Valiant Defense, but I previewed Halls of Hegra earlier this year from Trumpet, which is a pure solo war game, if you like. And everybody said from looking at the preview, it's similar to some of the games in the Valiant Defense series. So I think I really enjoyed Halls of Hegra. It's traumatic, as you can imagine, but I really enjoyed it. So again, this is one that I think, based on what you said, Mike, and what I've seen other reviewers say about this as well, is one that I need to pick up at Essen. I think it's
also reasonably small box and relatively cheap. And I think it's a period in history that people don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
And was sort of really important and awful.
From everything I know about this game and the people I know that have played it and have got it, I'm surprised, Mark, you don't have a copy. So I think you will like it.
Yep.
And I've just dropped David Thompson a message and told him that we're in the middle of a live show and talking about him. So he may pop in the chat.
I mean, I'll have a look at it if it's there for 20, 40 minutes. I don't tend to go big on war themes, but a little solo game I could get behind.
Yeah. Right. We're 2.5 hours in, so we need to start wrapping things up. We're also getting to the point where we could scroll down even further. As I say, there's 1,000 new games coming out.
I'm glad we did, because I totally meant to talk about Resist and I completely forgot.
Well, there we go. Thanks for that. Anything anybody wants to say before we finish? No. Right. Okay.
We'll see you there.
I had a couple of other games on the list, but literally only two, I think, that we haven't talked about. Sky Mines and Vengeance Roll and Fight. So I can talk about Vengeance Roll and Fight,
I can talk about Sky Mines.
Excellent. So Vengeance Roll and Fight, got delivered to Kickstarter backers. It's now available for retail. Mighty Boards game, David Solo, Nora Lee Lubbers, based on the Vengeance series, but it's a dice rolling game. 1 to however many players have got boards in there, etc. And you're rolling the dice, and imagine those kind of old arcade games where you'd go in, old school arcade games, you'd go in and you clear a room of bad guys and you'd move on to the next room. That is effectively what Vengeance Roll and Fight is. It's fast, it's quick, plays solo as well as others. That's Vengeance, not Roll and Fight. That one, Paul.
Yeah, that's the big box version.
Yeah, that's the big box game. Yeah. So So again, I've had a lot of fun with this. Mighty Boards have sent me the episode 1 of this. There is episode 2, and you can bling it up, etc. But I've thoroughly enjoyed when I previewed this and the time I've spent now with the actual copy as well. So much fun. 20 minutes a game. Just it's perfect. Yeah.
I think I'm picking up. I think they're giving me a copy when I'm meeting with them at Essen. I mean, I liked the theme of Vengeance. It was just way too big, fiddly, and all that lot. So if they have condensed that down and still retain that theme, then plus.
Yeah, this is great. You kind of upgrade as you go along, and as I say, it's just an arcade blast. And if you fail the room, you just set it back up. It takes no time and go in again, basically. And you've got various characters, various bad guys, various rooms, throwing dice, and on the solo mode, you're throwing dice against a timer. It's great fun.
Is it good, bloody, and gory as well?
Yeah. We played Vengeance back when it came out, and we thought it was good. We liked the system. We didn't understand why it was a 2-player game. So it sounds like they've sort of resolved the 2-player weird 2-playerness of it by making it solo.
It was kind of like, it was mainly a solo game, but it took ages to get out, play, and set up. And it's just like, I need this in 30 to 60 minutes, not 2 hours or something like that, because it was a dice puzzle.
It also doesn't make sense that you're effectively competing to be the best at Vengeance, like
it's like
it's like but we both killed the guy, so like we're back. Like we got what we wanted, like, but you lost because you didn't kill him as good as me.
It's the same mechanism they've used in things like Marvel Legendary and was it that Tower one, that co-op tower game also, where it's the classic thing of we're all working together except you technically won the game. That mechanism doesn't work in any game.
Vengeance
period.
was not even like that. It wasn't even like didn't even masquerade as that. It was like here are completely separate sort of adventures that you're going on with separate rooms and separate bosses. And you're just kind of doing it simultaneously to see who did it.
I stab more people with swords, I win.
Exactly, yeah. It's very bizarre.
So that was Vengeance Roll and Right. Sky Mines. You see, I didn't even have this on my list because I've got this like 3 months ago, I think.
I was going to say, you've already played and covered this one.
Yeah, but I guess it is an Essen release. So Sky Mines is from Deep Print Games, Pegasus Spiel, various other publishers are picking it up. This is the updated version of Mombasa. So it's Alexander Pfister's game. And it's not just like a second edition of Mombasa. It is 99% exactly the same as Mombasa, but with a complete retheme. Kabuki Kid is asking if there's graphic design issues. I don't think so. I've played it, and I don't remember any graphic design issues at all with it. So, yeah, if you liked Mombasa, but you were not keen on the theme of Mombasa, then Sky Mines should fix all of that. I've played it. I've covered it on the channel. One thing that surprised me is that I thought Mombasa / Sky Mines really worked best as a 4-player game, and I still think it does. But when I went into it, I thought this isn't going to work at all as a 2-player game, just because of the way that the area control bit works on the board. It did. It worked absolutely fine. It wasn't anywhere near as interesting as in a 4-player game, but it still did work. So yeah, so good quality production, and as I say, Alexander Pfister is a hit for me. Loved his games. Really, really enjoyed Mombasa. So Sky Mines was effectively a replacement, but there's more to it. There's another side of the board, and there's some extra modules, and there's a campaign system, and there's all sorts of extra bits. So it isn't just Mombasa rethemed. They've thrown a lot of extra stuff in there as well. So yeah, so that's that one. Tony Boydell's in the chat. Hi, Tony. Tony's asking, is anybody coming to see him demo Aleph Null? I didn't know you were going to be there, Tony, but if you are going to be there, well, I've not seen you in years. Tony's got a new game coming out, Aleph Null, which I believe is a solo card game. And I think Deep Print Games are publishing it. Aleph Null. I remember you talking about this ages ago. So it's actually coming out. Well, I'll be swinging by. Yeah, so designer Tony Boydell, artist Alex Lee, Frosted Games, that's it, not Deep Print Games. Frosted Games are doing it. And Capstone Games are the American publishers. Tony's already done a solo card game, Lux Eterna, which was exactly the same artists, same publishers and everything else. So this is his next one. And since he's in the chat, let's have a look. We haven't got much about it. The only images we've got are the front cover, which looks very nice. There is a video of Tony doing a playthrough of it. Now, this is a prototype. I'm going to have the sound off because otherwise Tony will swear all the way through it. But yeah, this is the prototype copy of it. And yeah, if you like Lux Eterna or basically solo card games, then that's what this is. So Mark, go and see Tony. Go and have a look at it.
Tony, I'll come and seek you out as a solo channel. Yeah, I'd like to learn more about this, mate.
Yeah. Cool.
And Tony is still managing to swear at you, Paul, on the video without saying a word there.
Right, okay, I can see it. I can see the way he's moving his fingers around.
No, just to the right of that.
No, just the token.
Token.
So apparently we can see the final production. Can we see the final production? Where's the final production? All I'm seeing is a couple of images. Yeah, I'm not seeing much in the way of final production, apart from the front cover of the box.
Looking at this, I mean, this does
look quite nice.
A cult Ouija board. The card game is a lot of.
I guess so. I guess so. Tony will be able to tell us more about it. Right. Any other final things? Thursday and Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. Frosted Games. That's where Tony's going to be.
Okay, fine.
Okay, right.
The Wolves. Does anyone know much about that one?
The Wolves. Nope.
It's a Pandasaurus one. Again, the cover I would stick on the wall. Territory building, pack building, claim lone wolves, hunt prey. But it looks gorgeous on the table. I'm gonna admit that does look cool. I'll take I'll take an animal related theme, but I'm hearing a lot of good buzz of this one, and probably won't be too expensive either. So I'll probably be interested to at least try this one out.
Okay. Did somebody in the chat mention that then?
It was mentioned a while ago, but
right? Okay.
I sort of noticed it on scrolling. It's like, oh yeah, that one.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not much information about there, but if that's going to be available at Essen, because Pandasaurus are an American company, I'd have thought that they'd have had Gen Con as their sort of main release time for games.
I think they tend to. They try to do both.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else they want to add, or are we done?
I can't think of any other major games.
We've covered a lot. We've been going for 2.5 hours.
Jeremy mentioned a game called Copan. Does that ring any bells?
I saw this when I was looking through stuff this morning. Is it something to do with Nicaragua or something like that? I could get the country wrong there. Just bear with me a sec.
Copan.
It doesn't. I mean, there's practically no information.
The city of Copan that quickly grew during the Maya period. The Maya leader Yax Kukmo, came from the area of Tikal, and arrived in the Copan Valley in 427 AD.
No, it's Copan, Paul. That's the wrong one. It's Copan Dying City.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one as well.
Also, I think Copan was on Kickstarter. I don't think it's due to fulfill till next year. So
it says 2023.
It'll just be demo.
Yeah.
Holy Grail Games.
Holy Grail Games. They do some good games.
It's been a while since I've
seen they had the deal with Reiner Nizia until they didn't.
Yes.
Heavy Euro game, 1 to 4.
But 2023 it looks like.
Yeah, that'd probably just be a demo thing, I suspect.
Kabuki Kid says we've got to cover Joan of Arc, right?
No.
No?
Well, actually, we can. We could look at the cover at least.
Yeah, let's look at the cover.
Let's look at the cover of Joan of Arc.
Which Joan of Arc game is it? Is it the draw and write?
I hope she means the draw and write.
The Joan of Arc.
Orleans, the Orleans drawn right.
Yeah. As in, here's a great game. Well, great in quotes. I don't know. Here's a game. Let's turn it into a roll and write. But oh my god, that cover.
So artwork is a very subjective thing.
No, this is objectively bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that. I mean, this featured on the Dice Tower's worst board game covers thing they did recently. It's
why does it look like she's smoking a spliff?
I have no idea why she's. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a massive Orleans fan, but even then, it's just like, well, whatever. Big game, the dice game, or big game roll and write usually makes me roll my eyes anyway. But it's just that cover. I mean, could you not just up the artwork a bit?
I really don't like to sort of pound on somebody, and especially an artist who obviously it's their job, but that looks awful. Sorry. Maybe it's a particular art style. I've seen worse. It's the face. And maybe it's a style. Maybe it's a style of art that I don't understand because I'm not cultured. But to me,
is this not Clemens Franz? Like, I think it is, right? So
well, he's great. He's a great
he must
artist.
have done this deliberately. So maybe he's made bold choices that just didn't land.
Yeah. So period art style, says Peter Rushton. So it must be a deliberate.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, if you saw it on the shelf, you wouldn't necessarily take it off, because even if you ignore the character, it's one giant beige.
But this is an interesting topic for a future podcast discussion. Somebody does artwork for a game which is periodically accurate, but from us four looking at it, well, Mark's keeping quiet, but from us three looking at it, we're looking at it going, that looks awful. I do not like that. It visually does not look good. So even if it's accurate, if it doesn't look good, where do you draw the line on stuff like that? I don't know.
It's looking at her bodily proportions, like Hexagis mentions. That's kind of weird because her spine looks like it's curved.
Her spine is curved. She's got one eye bigger than the other. Then again, so do I.
What was the other game that had an awful artwork? Oh, Glasgow. Was it Glasgow that had the terrible artwork on the cover of the box as well? Yeah.
Glasgow had the game. Although, actually, saying that, another game I'd like to know. What was it called? It's the Freedom and Freeze one. It also featured in that worst. It also featured it. Well, it had like the bird on the front that's out of focus or something.
Glasgow's all right.
There's that guy in it though.
He's not great. I mean, if we're talking about Friedman Freezer games, what's the new game that he's got coming out this year with the pheasant on the front cover?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the game, it's the pheasant one because it featured on that list of worst covers as well.
It's hilarious. We've got to show that.
But where's that game? It's called. It begins with F.
Findorf. I know it begins with F.
They all begin with F. Yeah. Somebody in the chat. What's it called?
Fancy Feathers, or
Fancy
Findorf?
Feathers. It's got
Fancy Feathers Fancy Feathers is the one with the pheasant on the front. Yeah. Findorf is the one set in his hometown about punting.
Yeah, the English name is Fancy Feathers. German, Fascinari or whatever that is the German name for it.
I was going to just search for all of his games. How do you spell it?
Fasanerie. It's 165 thumbs.
Found it.
Yeah, it's an out of focus pheasant. I don't know how you achieve that.
Hilarious.
How do you achieve an out of focus picture?
It's a Photoshop effect.
Yeah, because it's just like what?
I mean, it is funny. It must have been done for amusement value.
But the thing is, here's the sad part of it. Click on the game itself and go into the images for the actual game. Was it go past this title and go into the actual game? Into another, there's an image there of the game in progress or some of the cards.
There's some of the cards.
Yeah,
they look gorgeous.
Yeah, as I said, the cards look sublime.
Wow.
I would have that on my wall.
They are nice.
So why does that not match the cover?
We haven't mentioned either of Friedman Freeser's new games, but his games are always worth a look. They're a little bit hit and miss, but last year's game that he had, which was Free Ride, I thought was fantastic. Really, really good. Very light to medium train game that was just really good mechanically.
Yeah, I tend to like his lighter card games. I think this one says 2 players only, which is why I'm not going to.
Right. Okay.
It's impossible for me to get it to the table at that point. But
yeah,
this one the game sounds pretty cool as a 2-player card game. I just wish it was multiplayer.
Yeah. James is in the chat. Can we have your opinions on Splendor Duel and Challengers? So I can talk about Splendor Duel because I worked on the rulebook for Splendor Duel, and then after I'd finished working on the rulebook, they said, "Paul, we've delayed the announcement of this game. You've got to not tell anybody about it for like 3 months or something." They put it back after I'd done the work on the rulebook. So I was tight-lipped about this. So yeah, Splendor Duel, and I've played it, and I helped work on the rulebook for it, and I quite enjoyed it. Splendor is an okay game for me, but the Splendor Duel turns it into obviously just purely a 2-player game. But the mechanism that they've got for actually taking your resources, that's the new bit, and that was actually really cool. I quite liked that. So, and I believe that's going to be out at Essen, I think.
Yeah, it's got this. I think it will be at Essen. It's got that little grid thing. Dice Tower reviewed it. I'm definitely keen to try it because my family and I still love Splendor.
Okay.
It's definitely my mum's favorite, and it's just the fact that I can just teach it to anybody in 2 seconds and still get it played. I can't say I was desperate to have a 2-player only version of it, unlike, say, Seven Wonders, which definitely needed a 2-player version of it.
Yeah.
But because it's got, is it the both? No, because Bruno Cathala is working on it along with the Splendor designer. It's like, right, anytime he touches a game and makes a 2-player version out of it, it tends to be gold dust.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one I want to try.
Apparently 100 copies of it are going to be sold per day. There you go.
That's not many.
That's not many.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to try and get in early.
And on the Thursday, that might be 99, because I assume I'm going to get a version of it because I worked on the rulebook, but they can send it me later. It's fine.
You'll walk around on Wednesday and grab it.
I'll walk around on Wednesday and grab somebody's copy.
It's like one of the most depressing experiences you can have is walk around with Paul on the Wednesday and a thing because he just walks around and collects games.
just a magnet.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Challengers. Don't know about that one.
I don't know what
I'm just looking at it now. It's some kind of 1 to 8 player capture the flag thing that plays in under an hour, allegedly.
I would have thought that was a kid's game if I looked at the cover.
Yeah, it looks adorable. I've not heard
no
of this
weight
at
rating
all.
yet.
Animal card game, interactive deck management game to 1 to 8 players, tournament gameplay.
I've got a feeling you're going to love this, Luke. Seriously, I think it's going to give you Fort vibes by the looks of it.
I mean, it's not a deck builder.
Well, it's got Z-Man. Z-Man are releasing it.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's nice to say Z-Man released something that isn't pandemic related. That's always good.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about this one, but it doesn't look like my kind of thing, and it doesn't sound like my kind of thing. So that'll be a pass for me.
I think this. I mean, I'll stop by and talk to them about it. I think this looks cute, and I like the idea of a capture the flag board game. That sounds like new and interesting.
Yeah,
I'll have a look for it.
I like that it goes up to 8 as well. That seemed if it goes up to 8 and plays in under an hour, that would be nonsense.
Well, the thing is, I mean, that kind of worries me a little bit because when you look at the player calculator, it says best 1 and 4 to 7, which is a bit of a weird split there, but also 1 to 8. I mean,
again, these are community votes at the moment. They're not really relevant until the games come out.
But 1 to 8 is such a wide bandwidth. I mean, is this clearly a game that should be played 6 to 8, and the fact that it does lower players is a byproduct? I mean, how on earth you solo it is a curious thing. But...
Right.
Cut the flag! I win!
Yeah.
30 seconds long.
I start with the flag. Victory! I claim this country for Britain. I mean, it's like...
So we should briefly mention Solosphere since Aiden's in the chat.
Yeah.
True, yeah, we probably should.
Yeah, so Aiden from Dronda Games is in the chat, and this is their first Essen release, is that right? Because it's not your first game. You did Solar Storm first.
Solar Storm was the first one,
But Solar Storm presumably wasn't released.
Solar Storm was released at UK Games Expo, I believe.
Yeah. So Solosphere is releasing at Essen.
So yeah, I know it's due out to backers anytime soon. And looking at what Hayden's just said here, they won't find out until Wednesday whether it will be there for Essen because it's delayed freight. Again, I played a previewed Solosphere. Had a really good time with it. David Digby did the solo on this.
That looks nice.
Yeah, and it was, imagine... Solar Storm had got the kind of 9-card thing going on. This is a more integrated Euro, if you like, with a wonderful kind of central, almost, I don't want to say terraforming Mars style map, but you have got hexes on there that you flip over and they do various things. I had a lot of fun with Solosphere, and I believe that the Kickstarter comes with various expansions for it as well.
Okay.
Relatively straightforward to learn, but a good challenge, some dice manipulation, etc. on there. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the final version on this.
Curious to give it a look because Solar Storm was, nice and pleasant. It was a nice little light card game. I love the card artwork.
Yeah, card artwork. I mean, Solar Storm was a cooperative game. Is this a cooperative game as well?
No, I think this one.
This is not. Right.
This is very much a competitive game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've seen their demo a few times at the UKG. By the way, a wild dog, David Thompson has appeared in chat.
I wonder how David knew we were doing a live show and talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, not summon David's spell.
Yes. Thanks for popping in, David. We're just wrapping things up, actually.
We're talking about this, David, and the fact it's a solo game, and I haven't tried it yet, so I need to rectify that and maybe picking a copy up at Essen. So yeah,
definitely. Aidan has confirmed it's a fully competitive Euro is Solosphere. So Yeah, I mean, if you have a spare copy of it and you want a copy in the GridCon games library, then sure, I'd be happy to put that in there.
Johnson, I want more Sniper Elite maps. Bring out more of those. Great.
Well, I was talking with David and Roger after I did the live stream with them for Sniper Elite, and I said, surely if this game is popular, you can just knock out a whole load of maps. And they said to me that the design of the maps was the longest part of the design process for the game.
Oh,
so it isn't just a case of, oh, let's get an ordnance survey map and put some lines on it and off you go. It's actually, no, they spent quite a while.
Oh, yeah. So... that makes sense, and I wouldn't think of it any other way, but it's also the best thing to get for it. It's like, I don't need new mechanisms.
Well, that's the thing. With a game like Sniper Elite, we don't need any more rules. We don't need any more complexity. I don't even think we need any more items and weapons and things like that. Yeah. Just more maps for more variety with that. So,
right. Excited by prospect of new Splotter. Well, good for you. And wrapping this up.
Yeah, I mean, Splotter games. I mean, there are some Splotter games that are really good, but generally speaking, I'm not. Bus is really good.
Fair enough. I've not played that one.
Bus is really good. But yeah, I've got Roads and Boats. I bought myself Roads and Boats as a retirement present. When I left my previous career. I decided, yeah, that one. You know, where I went from working 37 hours a week to 70 hours a week. That one.
You got it back to front, mate.
No, that's what I did. But yeah, that was. So I've got Roads and Boats. I've got a few Splotter games. And yeah, they have their fan base. They are. I mean, Food Chain Magnate is probably their biggest one. But
yeah,
I'm not their biggest fan of their games, even though I respect their games. I respect what they're doing with their games. And there's a couple that I've enjoyed, and as I say, Bus I think he's excellent. But their new one, Headless Carriage, Horseman's Carriage, Horseless Carriage.
I do think Concordia is better than Food Chain Magnate.
Hey, well there we go then. That's saying something.
Yeah, so... we know what that bar is.
Yeah.
Well, I like Food Chain Magnate a lot, chat, and I also like Indonesia, and
Indonesia is very, very good. Indonesia is very good.
A lot. I've pre-ordered Horseless Carriage, and I'm very excited.
Right.
What's the one that begins with A that a mate showed me?
Antiquity.
Oh God, yeah.
See, I was at the Essen.
How many hours do you want to spend to build a shed?
I was at the Essen when Antiquity was released, and one person in our group bought it, and it was like €100, which 15 years ago. Games were not €100. They were like 30, 35 euros. It was €100. There was like 1,000 pieces.
And it looks like a print and play.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, you know, Splotter games, their production quality is not the best. Their artwork is not the best. But that's not what they sell themselves on. It's just a couple of guys designing the games. There's normally a low print run, which is why the price is really high. And yeah, as I say, they've got their fan base, and there are people who absolutely love their games, like Mike. So you're gonna be looking forward to that one.
I'll have to introduce Mike to an old mate of mine from the surrounding group or something. I swear he's probably got like nearly every single Splotter game. So I think the two of you would get on like a house of fire.
Fair enough. Like the thing is, I find I think you'd be hard pressed to find a single designer or publisher where everything they've done is good work. You know, Splotter is also their games are actually very, very different. You know, the one thing they tend to have in common is that they have quite steep skill curves, which means that generally speaking, the person who's played it more or who understands the game in more depth will win it.
Yes.
You know, which can make them very difficult to access, but it also makes them very replayable because you definitely get better playing it over time.
They've also got one saying, because that's definitely a philosophy with their games. The other philosophy with their games that I can't get behind, which is, I think he said on record that if the first turn doesn't decide your game, there's no point having it, or something to that effect.
Yeah, but the problem
is his justification for basically saying, right, you messed up in the first 5 minutes, enjoy the next 4 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Their games are all the ones I've played of their games are of a similar thing in that, the move that you make on the first turn of the game, you might have lost the game straight away. There's so many important decisions on, where am I going to put this? Should I put it there or should I put it there? Or I'll put it there. And then the ramifications of that impact later on is quite a lot. And another thing that's very common with Splotter games is that, and this was the case with Food Chain Magnate, it was the case with Antiquity, and it was the case with a few other games, is that you could download a list from Board Game Geek or whatever of, here's the steps that I must follow for my first 6 turns in order for this strategy to work. And then you literally just turn up to the game night. Antiquity was the worst for this, because there's almost no player interaction for the first half of the game, and Roads and Boats to an extent as well. And you just literally go, I'm going to do this, I'm now going to do this, I'm now going to do that. And you spend the first half hour or hour following this sequence of things. And I've played Food Chain Magnate with somebody who turned up with that list for one of the strategies and just sat there and went through it. And that's a similar thing with their games. They did very well, because that was one of the 3 strategies which won you the game.
So if the game's telling me how to play, it's like, no, come on, I make my own choices.
Well, I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I've never played with anyone who's ever done that, and if I did, I don't think I'd play with them again. And actually, interestingly, I did have a very terrible experience playing Star Wars Rebellion with someone who did something very similar to that.
Yes.
So it's not exactly. It's to an extent, that's kind of a symptom of board games, and maybe Splotter does lend itself to that more than others. But I mean, I think that if doing well is that important to you, then that's you're that kind of player, and that's fine. But
it's more that you want to feel like you have a chance, in a sense. Like, if you start off badly and you notice that you're on the back foot, it's like, right, but I can pull this back. Let's work at it. And if you don't pull it back, whatever, you don't care if you won it at the end of the day. But it's the idea of sitting there for 4 hours knowing that what you do has no impact on the game other than king making, which is like, no. Although I do agree, I've never heard of anybody reading a script for Star Wars Rebellion, but good blimey, I'd hate to play that game like scripted. It's like, that game does not lend itself to playing by a script.
Right, so let's wrap things up and finish off. We are travelling over there on the Tuesday, so I'm getting to Luke's on the Monday night. We're driving over on the Tuesday. We'll be there Tuesday night, and then we will be in the halls on the Wednesday for the press day and stuff like that. When are you two getting there?
I fly out. I get into. I've got to fly into Cologne, so I've got an hour's drive ahead of me when I get there. So I don't get there till late Wednesday night. I think my flight gets in about 8:15. So I'll be there for Thursday morning, basically.
Right. So you will be missing the press part of the event on the Wednesday. You'll be there on Thursday. Mike?
Thursday,
we're driving up on Tuesday, so we'll be there from Tuesday evening.
Oh, right. Okay. And where are you staying, Mike? If you want to tell us on camera, you don't have to. But
we're staying at an Airbnb in Essen, Paul. So.
Oh, right. Okay. So at a random, undisclosed location.
You might spot us. Look for a bright yellow car. You can't miss us on the road.
I remember your car.
So
they're not Bessie.
So me, Luke, and Mike, who are going to be in the halls on the Wednesday. And therefore, we will very likely be picking up some games on the Wednesday. What are we going to play Wednesday night? What is the number one game from everything we've talked about that if we can pick it up on Wednesday, that we will play?
Sounds like Heat is going to be the one, doesn't it, basically?
Heat.
On the Wednesday night? I think it might be.
I was going to say, out of the ones, to be fair, most of mine I think I'll be getting when I meet with them at scheduled meetings.
Oh, right, okay.
To the Wednesday, but there may be a few.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we've got that on the Wednesday. Thursday, we've got...
Thursday's the meetup.
Your Patreon meetup, which is going to be great. Friday, I've been invited to a Empress 4 gathering where they've teamed up with Taiwan Board Designs and a couple of their ones. They've got sort of 50 max people they can attend. I think they've probably still got slots actually, but it's on both Thursday and Friday night. So I'm going to go to the Friday night one where basically they're still in the halls after the
one of those
finishes.
Yeah,
and with some beer and food and that, but we get to play a bunch of their little games, and Empress 4 and Taiwan do some pretty cool quirky games that I like. So it means I don't have to use up time in the convention to go demo their stuff. I can just cram it all into Friday night, which is quite cool.
But back to the question, which is the one game that you're going to play the first as soon as you can? If you could play any game from what we've talked about today on the Wednesday night, which one would it be?
On the Wednesday night?
Well, while Luke's thinking, Mike, same question.
Well, so I'm going to caveat it, Paul, and I apologize for being verbose, but I think that's kind of a loaded question because it would be Pilgrim if I had no time constraint and no group constraint, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to be there with two boys who Michael would not like Pilgrim. I don't.
Right.
think.
Okay. So force him to play it.
It will be a big teach and a big learn. So I don't think, time permitting, I don't think it would be.
But putting those aside, Pilgrim would be the game that you are most looking forward to playing.
Well, I think I'd on the Thursday or the Wednesday night or whatever, if we have a chance to play it. I think Starship Captains would actually be a pretty good shout.
Okay.
Seems like a middleweight Euro, pretty easy to learn. Yeah. I think people will get on with it.
It factors a lot of the fact that we got to learn this from scratch and still be able to play it. So Starship Captains would be the heaviest game on my list that I would consider just doing it from scratch. Heat would be good. Certainly if I get Tribes, that would be a good one I'd like to bring out because that'd be nice and quick. Tribes
of Wind, that would be really really fast.
So Mark, you're not going to get into the halls until Thursday, and Thursday night's the meetup. So Friday night will be your first time to sit down in the hotel and play the game. I think Mark's on mute. Yeah, Mark's muted himself.
Sorry, I think I'm at the same hotel certainly as Luke. Are you the?
Which is me.
We are.
Yeah. Next to the train station.
Say, we're in that hotel. Yeah.
So Saturday night.
My previous plan.
Saturday night, Mark. What are you going to play in the hotel lobby? Hoplomachus Victorium, which you're going to bring all the way with you to Essen.
I'm going to bring with me. Yeah.
And then sit in a corner on your own and play it.
That's why you can't take any games back.
No, I think out of the games that we discussed, Saturday night, probably everybody's a bit tired by that point anyway. Let's have a look. So probably Heat would be a good one to go through. Turing Machine, just for a bit of a filler there on that.
To really break your tired.
If anybody's got King of Monster Island, that could be a good Saturday night beer and pretzels game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For Saturday night would be a good one. Yeah. And who are you helping out booth-wise? Because I'm with Greater Than Games Saturday and the Sunday before Paul and I head back home. Are you helping out booth-wise? I can't remember.
Helping anybody out booth-wise. I'm going to spend a bit of time on the Chip Theory stand, but not really officially helping out there. But other than that, no, I'm not helping anybody out. It's my Essen. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm demoing some small little filler game, which is not that complicated at all. It's like 2-page rulebook or something. So Frosthaven.
The Cyberpunk one or Cold Punk or whatever it's called.
Yeah. No, they told me Frosthaven had a really small rule book and it was a really quick game and it's like a 5-minute teach. So yeah, they suckered me into demoing that. While I'm
Frosthaven or Frostpunk?
Frosthaven.
Frosthaven. Right. Okay. So just a light game then. I thought.
Just a super light game that doesn't take long to play.
It's funny. I haven't even heard of it, Paul.
No. It's quite an under the radar game.
I mean, I'll get to demo 2 of my favorite games of all time, for a day and a half. It's I usually don't need more than Wednesday to Friday to get my stuff done at the convention. So I figured let's help a booth out.
Great Western Trail and what then, Luke? Is that
Concordia?
Concordia. Is it Great Western Trail, the superhero edition, and
Concordia the what?
and Concordia Spirits. It's that one. Yes.
Right, we're all done. So Luke, I will see you on Monday night. Mike, I will see you there probably on the Wednesday. Mark, I will see you on the Thursday.
Excellent.
Safe travels to everybody. If you are heading to Essen and you bump into any of us, please feel free to say hello. I will be at the Cephalo Fair Games booth each morning until about 1 or 2 o'clock demoing Frosthaven. Luke's going to be at the Greater Than Games stand. I'm going to be at the Meet and Play event on Saturday. And Mike, you're going to be at that as well, I think.
Yes, I'm at the Meet and Play on Saturday from 2 to 5. We're going to be playing party games and fun party games at that.
I'm going to be joining. I'm going to be going to that probably around 3 o'clock for maybe an hour or 2. If you don't know what the Meet and Play is, just Google it. Just do Meet and Play Essen Spiel 2022. But a group of people have got permission to basically reserve a whole big area of Essen Spiel and have invited content creators to go along and be there at that time so that anybody can come along and meet us. So if you wanted to meet, certainly I'm going to be there. Mike's going to be there. I might drag Mark along or Luke if you're free. But there's various other content creators that are going to be there. And if you want to meet us, you can go along. It's just an open event and we're going to be there. Mike's going to be playing party games. So Twilight Imperium, for example.
If I'd known of it in advance, I would have.
You can still come along.
But I'll be helping out.
Oh, you're going to be working
the entirety of Saturday because Saturday at the convention is usually a write-off. So I tend to say, I'll demo that day.
It is. Yeah. Right. Thank you, for everybody for joining me. Thank you to everybody for watching. If you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And those of us that have Patreons, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I do, it's Gaming Rules. Luke does, it's Broken Meeple. Mike does, it's Ready Steady Play. Mark needs to start a Patreon. Mark does loads and loads and loads of videos and doesn't get paid anything from publishers and doesn't have a Patreon. He's like we were a few years ago, doing it all on his own time.
He'll start a solo Patreon. He'll be all right.
You absolutely should start something, Mark. But yeah, thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for your support. And yeah, we hope you found this video fun, useful. Maybe there's some games we talked about that that you didn't know about. And yeah, thank you to everybody for keeping us company.
Excellent. Thank you all. See you all.
I'm exhausted. Right, we'll catch everybody later. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.